It was the day of our engagement party. My fiancé's the one who got away suddenly showed up, just as the ceremony was about to begin. My fiancée disappeared with him. I searched for them everywhere like a madman, only to find them in the parking lot. I caught Jiang Wanqing leaning in to kiss him. Her white dress was sprawled across the ground. Her bare ankles looked ghostly pale. With tears in her eyes, she whispered, "Su Yichen, it's all my fault. I've made you suffer so much." I asked, "You promised to marry me, so why choose Bai Jingchen? Just hit me." "I was wrong," she said, sliding down his legs. She knelt on the ground. "I shouldn't have come to bother you. I'll call off the engagement. I'll marry you. I don't want you to be in a difficult spot." "It's not difficult. It's just a business arrangement anyway. He never touched me. You're the one I've been waiting for." Jiang Wanqing nodded. Su Yichen reached out to touch her face. I felt the ring box in my pocket. I let out a mocking laugh. It all felt so ridiculous. 3 hours of frantic worry had all been a joke. I turned around, completely cold, and didn't look back. I walked back into the banquet hall. Her father hurried over to me. He frowned at my icy expression and asked, "What's wrong?" "Where's Wanqing?" I forced a smile. "She'll be here in a second." Oblivious to the situation, he nodded. "Then why are you looking so sour?" "You're getting engaged." "Try to look happy." I put on a smile. But there was nothing behind my eyes. Happy? Why wouldn't I be happy? Her father sighed. He patted me on the shoulder. "You might be happy. But your mother was so furious, she lost her composure and didn't even come. Since you've made up your mind to get engaged, I won't say anything more." When the host finished setting up the equipment, Jiang Wanqing finally strolled in, holding Su Yichen's hand. Jiang Wanqing finally arrived, hand in hand with Su Yichen, trailing behind everyone else. Seeing this, Jiang's father glared at her. With a sour expression, he snapped, "Where have you been, kid? Why are you only showing up now?" Jiang's mother noticed Su Yichen and asked with a puzzled look, "Wanqing, who is this?" "He's my brother," Jiang's father retorted sharply. He urged her again. "What kind of behavior is this, clutching onto him like that? Let go right now. Do you even know what time it is? Get on stage, don't keep Jingchen waiting." Jiang Wanqing turned around. She said softly to Su Yichen, "Wait here for a moment. I'll be right back." "Yeah, all right." The very next second, Jiang Wanqing's expression shifted from tender to ice cold. She walked quickly toward the stage. Jiang's father looked grim. He had always been against this engagement, but I had insisted on it. The old couple had tried to talk me out of it countless times, to no avail. They had no choice but to give in. Jiang Wanqing has no sense of decorum at all, showing up late to an event like this. I truly don't know what you see in him. I glanced over at the stage. A faint smile played on my lips. With my hands in my pockets, I strolled up to join them. Jiang Wanqing didn't notice me at all. Her eyes were glued to Su Yichen down below. The two were sharing looks of affection. Just earlier, in private, Su Yichen had told her something. He wanted her to go through with the engagement to me. When Jiang Wanqing asked why, confused, Su Yichen only gave a ridiculous answer. "I think it'll be a thrill." Just because Su Yichen wanted it, Jiang Wanqing agreed without a second thought. Right now, she was standing on the stage, but her heart was already with Su Yichen. Just as the host was about to pick up the microphone, I reached out and snatched it away. The move left the whole room in an uproar. The guests looked at each other in confusion. Completely bewildered, I leaned into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming to my engagement party. But I am truly sorry. This engagement is off." Mr. Jiang was the first to jump to his feet, his voice trembling with rage. "Jingchen, you... What did you just say? You're calling it off?" Jiang Muye stood up in a panic. With an anxious expression, she cried, "Jingchen, dear! What's wrong? Did you two have a fight?" Jiang Wanqing rushed right up to me. She snapped at me, her voice sharp with anger. "What the hell is your problem? You were the one who wanted this engagement, and now you're the one backing out. You're just doing this to humiliate me in front of everyone, aren't you?" With that, she raised her hand to slap me. I dodged to the side and landed a hard, stinging slap across her face. A sharp, loud crack echoed through the room. Jiang Wanqing shrieked as she hit the floor. Mr. Jiang lunged forward in a fury, rushing with his wife to help their daughter up. Seeing her cheek turning red and swollen so quickly, his blood pressure skyrocketed. He pointed at me and roared, "Bai Jingchen, what the hell are you doing? Have you lost your mind daring to strike Wanqing?" I narrowed my eyes. I backhanded him, landing 4 more slaps in a row right across his face. They wiped his rage away in an instant. "Look, old man Jiang," I said, Have you gotten so used to bossing people around that you think you can talk to me like that? Are you out of your mind? Stand up straight and pay attention. I put all my strength into that last slap. Mr. Jiang was so stunned he didn't dare make a sound. He sobered up immediately. He knew full well that for the Jiang family to survive in S-City, they had to rely entirely on the Bai family's support. And now, here he was, acting like a fool and challenging me. He was practically begging for his own destruction. Mrs. Jiang stood up, her voice shaking. Jingchen, what on earth is going on? Why would you do this? I had someone bring over a chair, sat down and crossed my legs, my tone playful and mocking. I haven't been anything but good to you, Jiang family, have I? The parents glanced at each other, nodding in a hurry. I let out a fierce roar, making them both jump with fright. I told you to speak. What, are you all mute now? Fine, very fine. I let out a cold laugh. Since everything is fine, why did your daughter betray me? The mother looked at me, completely stunned. Betray Jingchen? Isn't there some sort of misunderstanding here? I snapped my fingers. The big screen behind me lit up instantly, and a video began to play. A misunderstanding? Wanqing and Yichen's faces turned pale in an instant. The video showed exactly what the two of them were doing together earlier. Ignoring the pain in her face, Wanqing lunged forward to turn off the screen, but as she screamed, I slapped her right back down to the floor. Stop it! Turn it off now! My voice dripped with sarcasm. Let everyone take a good look at just how cheap the heiress of the Jiang group really is. Wanqing grabbed onto my pant leg, begging desperately, Jingchen, let's talk about this at home. Please, can you just turn the video off? I crouched down, grabbed her by the hair, and forced her to look up at me. Scared now? When you were protecting your little lover earlier? Why weren't you scared then? When I loved you, you did whatever you wanted right in front of me. Now that I don't love you anymore, who the hell do you think you are? The video kept playing, and their conversation could be heard clearly. The guests started whispering, pointing fingers at them. Someone remarked that they never expected Wanqing to be so two-faced, despite looking so high and mighty. To think he's that kind of person, someone whispered. Cheating on the eldest son of the Bai family? Jiang Wanqing is finished this time. Just then, someone pointed at Su Yichen and spoke up. Isn't that the guy from the video? He actually has the nerve to stick around. Su Yichen's face went pale. He turned to bolt, but my people blocked his path. They dragged him right in front of me. Jiang Wanqing lunged forward to shield him, screaming, Bai Jingchen! If you have a problem, take it out on me. Don't touch him! I gave a slow round of applause. My tone was relaxed as I said, now that is what I call true love. Seeing this, Jiang's father hurried over, saying, Jingchen, it's my fault for not raising her right. I'll drag this little brat away right now. I'll make him kneel and apologize to you. Jiang Wanqing shoved his hand away, saying firmly, Dad, stay out of this. I never liked Bai Jingchen in the first place. You're the one who forced me. It's Yichen I've loved all along. Jiang's father clutched his chest in rage, nearly collapsing on the spot. Jiang's mother rushed to steady him, sobbing and cursing at Jiang Wanqing. You ungrateful brat! How could you say something so heartless? Look at how good Jingchen has been to you. Good to me? That's only because he's backed by the Bai family's money. Without the Bai family, Yichen and I can manage the Jiang Corporation just fine. I stood up, my gaze sweeping over Su Yichen, catching the faint, smug smile curling at the corner of his mouth. I said calmly, fine. Then our engagement ends right here and now. I curled my own lips into a smile, walking straight towards Su Yichen. I pushed Jiang Wanqing aside, snarling, get lost. Then, I stood face to face with Su Yichen. I picked up a chopstick from the table. I asked him, do you have any idea what this is? Su Yichen gulped hard. He just nodded, unable to speak. I grabbed his hand and slammed it down onto the table. I forced his fingers to spread wide. Then, I plunged the chopstick down with everything I had. It drove straight through the palm of his hand, and I ripped it back out just as violently. A blood-curdling scream erupted from Su Yichen, echoing through the entire banquet hall. Jiang Wanqing lunged forward to hold him. She glared at me and shrieked, Bai Jingchen! You bastard, I will never forgive you for this. Call an ambulance now! I tossed the dirty chopstick aside, disgusted. I wiped my hands with a wet tissue, feeling like I'd just touched something foul. To think I actually got cheated on. I turned around and walked back up to the stage. I picked up the microphone and said, everyone, you've all just witnessed what happened between me and the Jiang family. From this moment on, The Jiang family and the Bai family are through. We have absolutely nothing to do with each other. If you have a score to settle with them, now is your chance. Go ahead and take your revenge. Having said that, I dropped the microphone. I turned my back on them and walked out. For years, the Jiang family had used the Bai family as their shield. They had been running wild in Ace City, doing whatever they pleased. But now that they had lost their backbone, plenty of people were already starting to plot against them. Inside the hospital room, Su Yichen was lying on the bed. His hand was wrapped in layers of thick bandages. Jiang Wanqin sat by his side, her face full of worry. Su Yichen opened his eyes. He immediately pulled her into a tight embrace. He begged her, "Wanqin, please, don't leave me." Jiang Wanqin gently patted his back. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here with you." Su Yichen looked at her, filled with guilt. "I'm so sorry. It's all my fault that you had to break things off with Bai Jingchen." Jiang Wanqin soothed him. "Don't blame yourself for that. I never liked him to begin with." Su Yichen's face lit up with surprise. He leaned in and kissed her lips. Just then, Mother Jiang stormed in, absolutely furious. She glared at Jiang Wanqing and barked, "Jiang Wanqing, you animal. Your father is unconscious in the next room. And here you are, flirting with him like this?" She stepped forward and slapped Jiang Wanqing across the face. Her cheek, already swollen, looked even more wretched now. Jiang Wanqing frowned and retorted, "Mom." The doctor said Dad collapsed from pure rage. "Yichen has lost so much blood. What's wrong with me staying by his side?" Mother Jiang was trembling with rage. "What kind of spell has he cast on you? You've ruined this entire family. Is it wrong for me to pursue my own happiness? I can manage the Jiang Corporation, and I have Yichen to help me." Mother Jiang let out a cold laugh and turned to leave. "Fine. Stay here with him then." Su Yichen tugged on her hand. Acting all sweet and understanding, he said, "Wanqing, you should go check on your father. Don't make your mother any angrier." Jiang Wanqing felt a warmth in her heart. She hugged him. "Yichen, you're so kind. I'll be right back." Just as she was about to get up, Su Yichen suddenly grabbed his hand and cried out, "Ah! My hand hurts so much." Jiang Wanqing rushed over. "What's wrong?" "I'll go get the doctor." The moment she left, Su Yichen immediately dropped his hand. He leaned back into the bed, looking relaxed. His eyes were filled with nothing but calculation. Elsewhere, at the general manager's office of the Bai Group's S-City branch, I was sipping tea, completely at ease. My secretary, Chen Mo, walked in with some documents and reported, "Boss Bai, we've found it." Su Yichen did study abroad, but that university is ranked over 1,200. It's not worth mentioning at all. I picked up the file and flipped through it. He scoffed. And here I thought he was some kind of big shot. So, they were nothing but total garbage all along. Chen Mo asked, Do you want us to step in?" I waved him off. "No need. Just sit back and enjoy the show." Jiang Wanqing burned a lot of bridges back when she had the Bai family backing her. Now that she's lost her support, plenty of people are lining up to settle the score. Just like I predicted, with the Bai family no longer holding her up, a bunch of smaller companies have started going after Jiang Corporation. Even though she's got the savings to hold on and hasn't taken a fatal blow yet, everyone inside the company is already panicking. Back in the office, her secretary, Su Wei, handed over a file. "Miss Jiang, Hui Corporation is unilaterally terminating our contract." Jiang Wanqing scoffed and signed the document dismissively. "There are plenty of people lining up to work with us. Put the word out. We're opening up a new bidding process for suppliers." Su Wei looked like she wanted to say something, but in the end, she just nodded and left. Right after Su Wei left, Jiang Wanqing's phone pinged with a bank notification. Over $8 million spent. Immediately after, a WeChat message popped up from Su Yichen with a photo of a Rolls-Royce. "Wanqing, isn't it beautiful?" Jiang Wanqing sent back a voice memo, sounding completely doting. "It's gorgeous. You have such great taste." Su Yichen sent another message. "I've also got my eye on a Ferrari. Can I get that too?" Jiang Wanqing didn't even blink. Of course, go for it. But she had no idea. Once the bidding notice went out, not a single company showed interest. Not only that, but her partners started breaking contracts one after another. The penalty fees were nothing compared to the massive losses from all the stalled projects. Jiang Wanqing slammed the files onto the floor, her face twisted with rage. Is Bai Jingchen behind this? Is that really all he's got? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. She grabbed her bag and stormed toward the Bai Group headquarters. In the main lobby, Jiang Wanqing headed straight for the private executive elevator. The security guard blocked her path. "This is the president's private elevator. Please use that one over there." "Do you even know who I am?" The guard gave a cold sneer. "We know who President Jiang is, but President Bai gave specific orders. Jiang Wanqing and dogs are not allowed inside." He shouted it loud enough that everyone in the lobby turned to stare at Jiang Wanqing. Whispers started erupting from every corner of the room. Jiang Wanqing's face turned bright red, struggling to hold back her rage. I need to see President Bai. It's urgent." The guard shrugged dismissively. "Do you have an appointment?" "President Bai is a busy man. He doesn't have time for stray cats and dogs." After a lot of back and forth, the head of security finally agreed to call up to Shen Mo. Only after getting the green light was Jiang Wanqing finally allowed to go up. Inside the office, I was leaning back with my feet up, playing a game. Jiang Wanqing kicked the door open and slammed her hands down on my desk. "Bai Jingchen, what is the meaning of this? You're making suppliers cancel our contracts? Is that all the pathetic tricks you've got?" I glanced up at her, set my phone down, and motioned for her to come closer with my finger. "Wanqing, come here. Let me tell you why." Jiang Wanqing cautiously leaned in, but before she could say a word, I slapped her across the face, sending her crashing to the floor. She clutched her face in pure shock. "How dare you hit me?" I looked down at her with a cold, icy tone. "I've even slapped your father. So what makes you think you're special? I must have been blind to ever fall for someone as brainless as you." Jiang Wanqing was shaking with rage, pointing a finger at me, unable to get a single word out. I let out a cold laugh and stepped right up to her. "From now on, you'd better take the long way around whenever you see me. Otherwise, next time, I can't guarantee I'll be this polite." Jiang Wanqing stormed through the door. She slammed her hands down on the desk. "Bai Jingchen, what do you think you're doing? Trying to make the suppliers cut ties with us? Is that all you've got?" I looked up at her. I set my phone aside. I gestured for her to come closer. "Wanqing, come here, let me explain why." Jiang Wanqing leaned in, full of suspicion. Just as she started to speak, I slapped her hard across the face. She tumbled to the floor. Jiang Wanqing clutched her face, completely stunned. You actually hit me?" I looked down at her from above. My voice ice cold. "I've even slapped your father. What's hitting you compared to that? I must have been blind back then, to have ever been interested in a mindless brat like you. Don't even try to say this has nothing to do with me. Even if I did it, what are you going to do about it? I haven't even looked too closely into what you and your little lover have been up to, so consider yourself lucky. Now get out of my office, right now." I picked up the phone and said, "Security? From now on, if Jiang Wanqing shows up again, just kick her out. Throw her out of here this instant." As the security guards dragged Jiang Wanqing out of the office, she felt a twinge of regret for the very first time. If she were still my girlfriend, she would never have ended up in such a pathetic state. The moment she stepped out of the Bai Corporation building, Jiang Wanqing's phone started ringing. Su Wei's voice came through the phone, thick with tears. "Miss Jiang, it's a disaster. The board of directors is holding a meeting, and they're planning to remove you as president." The atmosphere in the Jiang Group's conference room was suffocatingly tense. Over a dozen directors were seated around the table, with Jiang Wanqing sitting at the head. A middle-aged director spoke up first. "Miss Jiang, you can see the state the Jiang Group is in right now, and frankly, I don't think you're fit to be president anymore." Another director chimed in. "That's right, Miss Jiang. The chairman is still in the hospital, fighting for his life. As his daughter, you should be there taking care of him. I heard that the president has been busy messing around with some lover, and even though the chairman is unconscious, she barely even goes to see him." As the directors kept tossing insults back and forth, Jiang Wanqing's face turned bright red. She slammed her hand down on the table, shouting, "Back when I was making money for this group, why didn't any of you say a word? Now that the group is just hitting a minor rough patch, you're all in such a rush to fire me." One director waved his hand dismissively. "That's enough. Back when the group was profitable, it had absolutely nothing to do with your management. With the backing of the Bai Corporation, even a pig could have made a fortune. You can make money even just by sitting in the CEO's chair." He looked over at Jiang Wanqing. Mockingly, he said, "Oh, CEO Jiang, you don't actually think that money was earned through your own ability, do you? If that's what you really think, we have no choice but to remove you from your position. I have no intention of handing my investment over to an idiot." His words were ruthless. They hit exactly where it hurt. Jiang Wanqing was so angry she couldn't even speak. That board member pressed her even further. What? What are you stuttering for? I'm just telling the truth. Isn't that what everyone here is thinking? CEO Jiang, I suggest you resign voluntarily. It's the only way to save the group. If you insist on holding on, then I'm pulling my investment. A female board member chimed in with a stern expression. Me too, another board member added. Count me in as well, said yet another. Besides, if I pull my money now, I can at least salvage something. If we drag this out, we'll probably lose every penny we have left. Jiang Wanqing gritted her teeth. She spoke, emphasizing every word. You people are going way too far. One shareholder sneered. His eyes scanned over her face. CEO Jiang, I heard you went to the buy group before this meeting. Did you get slammed into a wall or what? After saying that, he turned to the other shareholders. They all laughed wildly. My Jiang family holds 57% of the shares in the Jiang group. You have no right to remove me. Seeing Jiang Wanqing's attitude stayed tough. The shareholders' faces turned cold in an instant. The third largest shareholder, who held the most shares after the Jiang family, Chen Shengdao, spoke up. So, CEO Jiang, you're planning to keep occupying that seat? Yes, that's right. The Jiang group belongs to my family. It doesn't belong to you. You're just people who sit back and reap the rewards. The third largest shareholder was so furious his eyes widened. Fine! All right, if that's how it's gonna be, then there's no reason for me to stick around here anymore. With that, he stood up right away and stormed out of the conference room. Immediately after, the other shareholders started getting up and leaving one after another. Once the room was completely empty, Jiang Wanqing, in a fit of rage, swept all the files off the table onto the floor. Those bastards! They didn't say a word when they were making money, but now they're all ganging up to force me out. Just then, the conference room door suddenly swung open. Su Yichen stood silently at the doorway. His hand, which had been pierced through a few days ago, was still wrapped in thick layers of gauze. When Jiang Wanqing saw Su Yichen, she immediately put on a joyful expression. Yichen, you're here. Su Yichen glanced at the mess on the floor with a smile, and as he reached out to pull her slender waist into his arms, he said, What's going on here? Jiang Wanqing didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into his embrace and said with a hurt tone, Yichen, they're all bullying me. When are you going to come and help me out? Su Yichen was stunned for a moment. Then he laughed and raised his bandaged hand, signaling his limitations. I want to help you, really. But my hand. Seeing this, Jiang Wanqing gripped his hand, feeling heartbroken. Her eyes turning slightly red, I understand. Yichen, I know you want to help me. Just focus on recovering for now. We'll talk about it once your injury is better. Su Yichen sickhead. Wanqing, I know what you're up against. I've heard the Bai family is incredibly powerful. Jiang Wanqing looked up at him, gazing at him with eyes full of adoration, and nodded. Su Yichen's eyes shifted, and he asked again, What about the Bai family's influence abroad? Jiang Wanqing thought about it for a moment. The Bai family has some influence abroad, but it's nowhere near as powerful as their reach here at home. Su Yichen nodded thoughtfully. I see. Is that so? 1 month later, inside a private room at a luxury club, Jiang Wanqing's face was flushed with color, her hands cradling a glass of red wine. As she spoke respectfully to the black man sitting beside her, Mr. Mike, I'd like to propose a toast to you. Mike looked arrogant, leaning back in his chair, lazily lifting his wine glass with one hand, and said in broken Chinese, You're too kind, Miss Jiang. Su and I are good friends, and since you're his girlfriend, I will definitely help you with this. Hearing this, Jiang Wanqing's face lit up with surprise, and as she spoke, she tilted her head back and took a sip of wine. Then thank you so much, Mr. Mike. Mike smiled and took a small sip as well. At this moment, Su Yichen spoke up. Wanqing, Mike and I are like brothers. His family is a major powerhouse in the States. With him helping you, the Bai family is basically nothing. Jiang Wanqing nodded repeatedly, saying with a face full of gratitude, Thank you. Yichen. Su Yichen pulled her into his arms, speaking quite nonchalantly, as he held Jiang Wanqing and chatted happily with Mike, looking completely inseparable. Wanqing, you're being too polite. After all, I'm your boyfriend. After 3 rounds of drinks and finishing the meal, just as they were about to wrap things up, Mike suddenly said, I hear the music scene in China is really booming. I'm free today, so I'd like to go check it out. What do you think, Miss Jiang? By now, Jiang Wanqing's cheeks were bright red, clearly feeling the effects of the alcohol, but upon hearing Mike's request, She still instinctively looked over to Su Yichen. Su Yichen gave him a reassuring look. He whispered, Wan Qing, I'll go with you. Mike is a big client. We can't afford to be bad hosts. Jiang Wanqing blushed and nodded obediently. Mike, how about we head to the club's karaoke room? Of course. Let's head out right now. Su Yichen instinctively glanced at Jiang Wanqing. As you wish. Jiang Wanqing stood up. I'm going to the restroom first. Yichen, you and Mike go wait for me in the lobby downstairs. Sure thing, Wanqing. Jiang Wanqing left her phone behind. She walked straight toward the restroom. The moment she stepped out of the private room, Mike's face instantly filled with worry. Su, are we really doing this? Su Yichen held up a finger and said, Mike, just trust me on this. This woman is such an idiot. We'll split the take 50-50 and go live it up abroad. Even though the Jiang family's market value has shrunk, this time we can each walk away with at least this much. Mike frowned and pressed. And how much is that? Su Yichen slowly uttered the number $10 million. Mike immediately sat up straight. His eyes lit up with greed. That much? Su Yichen said with certainty. Of course, and that's just a conservative estimate. $10 million was enough for Mike to leave his bodyguard life behind and live a life of luxury. His beady eyes kept darting around. His mind was racing with schemes. Just then, the phone Jiang Wanqing left on the table started to vibrate. Su Yichen took a look at the caller ID. His expression darkened instantly. He cursed with disgust and blocked the number right away. It's that old hag again. What a pain in the neck! Inside the restroom, Jiang Wanqing walked out of the ladies' room, her face flushed red. By the sink? I was just washing my hands. When Jiang Wanqing spotted me, her fur instantly standing on end like a startled cat. Bai Jingchen, what are you doing here? Are you stalking me? I just turned off the faucet and turned around. Jiang Wanqing pointed at me, her face full of fury. Before I could even speak, she kept on berating me. You are so disgusting. But so what? The one investing in the Jiang family this time is the Max Group. Do you even know? That's one of the top 10 financial conglomerates in the entire country. Even your precious Bai family can't even compare to a single finger of theirs. I originally couldn't be bothered with her, but the moment I heard Max Group, I couldn't help but frown. Did you say the Max Group? Jiang Wanqing looked incredibly smug. What else? Even if you know about them, so what? Now that the Jiang family has secured the Max order, what can your Bai family possibly do to me? I let out a soft chuckle and walked away right after saying it. Congratulations, really. Jiang Wanqing was stunned. Why wasn't I scared? I should have at least looked shocked. That's the Max Group we're talking about. Is it possible I didn't know who they were? That's impossible. Just as I reached the door of the private room, I suddenly stopped in my tracks. I waved a hand at the bodyguard behind me, leaned in close to whisper a few words in his ear, and then walked into the room next door. Inside the room, a young man with American features was sitting there. He was dressed in a high-end tailored suit, blonde hair and blue eyes, with a sturdy, imposing frame. It was none other than the first-in-line heir to the Max family, John Max. Seeing me return, John was beaming with joy. He pointed at the food on the table, digging in heartily, and said, Hey, come quick, this dish is just incredible. The Chinese restaurants back home, they just can't get this authentic flavor at all. I sat down and said, John, you're the heir to the Max family, aren't you? Getting some Chinese food shouldn't be that hard, right? John waved his hand dismissively. Finding Chinese food is easy. The hard part is finding this exact taste. Every time I come here, I have to treat my stomach to a feast first. We both burst into laughter. I suddenly asked, John, I heard you're planning to collaborate with the Liu Group this time. John looked up with a confused expression. The Liu Group? What's that? I've never even heard of them, and I don't have any plans for that either. My mind raced, sharp as a tack. I reached a conclusion in an instant. Either John was lying, or Jiang Wanqing was lying, or perhaps Jiang Wanqing had been played for a fool. The first two possibilities were extremely unlikely. Clearly it was the third one. John suddenly turned serious. Then he laughed and said, Right, hey, my family is looking to expand operations in China, and I'm planning to hand that over to your Bai group. You know what they say in China, keep your gains within the family. Ha ha ha, I laughed loudly, John. You've been in China way too long. You've even started using local proverbs. John raised his glass of red wine. Smiling faintly, I really love this country. For the next 2+ hours, we spent the time hashing out the details of our partnership, and in the end, we reached a consensus. Just then, a bodyguard knocked and walked in. He leaned in and whispered a few words in my ear. My face lit up with surprise. Then I burst out laughing. I gave the bodyguard a couple of instructions and sent him out. John asked curiously, "What's up with Bai?" "I've got some good news. I told him to wait for you. I'm taking you to see a show tomorrow." John was taken aback. Then he laughed and said, "A show? Chinese opera has been around for thousands of years. It's definitely worth a look." I gave him a mysterious smile. "No, not that kind. It's going to be one hell of a show. I guarantee it'll be spectacular." John replied, "Oh? Well, now I'm really looking forward to it." Inside the KTV private room, Mike, Su Yichen and Jiang Wanqing walked out together. Jiang Wanqing was slumped between them like a pile of dead weight. Mike said, sounding a bit uneasy, "Su, are you sure this is okay?" Su Yichen glanced around. Annoyed, he said, "Mike, you're such a coward. We're here to have a good time today. I'll handle explaining it to him tomorrow." Mike asked again, "What if he finds out?" Su Yichen chuckled deviously. "That's a problem for later. Once the 10 million hits the account tomorrow, we'll be long gone." Mike laughed in agreement. "You really are a total bastard." Their little plot. Jiang Wanqing didn't hear a single word of it. She was just dragged straight into the room. Early the next morning, Su Yichen was jolted awake by a knocking at the door. He instinctively looked over beside him. He saw Mike sprawled right on top of Jiang Wanqing. He was absolutely terrified, his heart skipping a beat. He quickly smacked Mike awake. He glared at him and hissed in a low, angry voice as he hurried toward the door, thinking it was room service. "Are you insane? Didn't I tell you to leave first thing in the morning? Why are you still here? What if this idiot wakes up? Hurry up, get dressed and let's go. I'll go grab some breakfast." Right after he opened the door, he found a huge crowd of reporters waiting outside. Everyone had their cameras pointed straight at him. The moment the reporters saw Su Yichen, they were instantly energized. He's the guy who was getting cozy with President Jiang at young Master Bai's wedding. One reporter shouted this out, pushed Su Yichen aside, and rushed right into the room. "Looks like President Jiang is really in there." Su Yichen finally realized what was happening, but it was already too late. A swarm of reporters flooded in, snapping photos like crazy. Mike hadn't even finished getting dressed, and immediately tried to cover his face when he saw the cameras. Someone yelled, "Look over there. Isn't that Jiang Wanqing, the CEO of the Jiang Group, on the bed?" Another added, "Oh my God, President Jiang is really something, huh? No wonder young Master Bai called off the engagement. I wouldn't want her either." Su Yichen was panicking and pacing back and forth, desperately trying to shield Jiang Wanqing, but it was completely useless. The reporters ignored him entirely. "Get out of here! Stop taking pictures!" "Stop it, all of you!" Mike cowered in the corner, shaking with fear. The commotion finally woke Jiang Wanqing up. She let out a soft groan, reached up to rub her throbbing head, feeling dizzy and disoriented. But the questions buzzing in her ears snapped her back to reality instantly. "President Jiang, could you please explain your relationship with these two gentlemen?" Another reporter pressed, "President Jiang, what is your relationship with this gentleman?" A third reporter chimed in, "Do you think Mr. Bai was right to call off the engagement?" Jiang Wanqing went completely rigid, her pupils shrinking in shock. He looked down at himself, his movements robotic. Suddenly, he let out a sharp scream. Scrambling in a panic, he grabbed the blanket and wrapped it tightly around his body. "I'm going to sue you all. I'm calling the police." He turned his head and shouted for Mike. "Call the cops, Mike." But there was no one behind him. Su Yichen had long since vanished without a trace. He ran, while I stood leaning against the wall outside the door, wearing an amused expression. Beside me, John looked icy cold. He was watching Mike, who was being held down on the ground by the bodyguards. Mike looked utterly desperate. He didn't even dare to lift his head. John barked angrily, "Mike, you are an absolute disgrace to this family. I'm so incredibly disappointed in you. Once we're back in the States, I'm going to make sure you face the harshest punishment possible." Hearing those words, Mike's legs gave out. He collapsed straight onto the floor. His small, bead-like eyes were glued to the ground, filled with pure disbelief. "I'm aware of that, John. I never imagined he was your bodyguard." John said with gratitude, sigh, "Thank you. If you hadn't insisted on keeping this bastard by my side, who knows what kind of trouble he would have caused. I will definitely make him pay for this." I said nonchalantly, "Handle it however you see fit." Just then, my phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. I hesitated for a second, then picked it up. An anxious voice came through the other end of the line. I dug my finger in my ear. Bored. I said in a casual tone, whether he lives or dies, what does that have to do with me? Your precious daughter is busy at the hotel with her little lover, having a grand old time. You should go look for her. Got blocked? Well, there's nothing I can do about that. The person on the other end kept rambling on and on. I was getting sick of listening to it. His death is on me. If you really think so, go ahead and report me. Don't you dare raise your voice at me. Being older doesn't give you the right to act like this. You know exactly what your daughter has done. I paused for a second and said with a hint of sarcasm in my voice. But then again, I actually feel a sense of balance now. Someone who doesn't even care that their own father passed away. Who else would they ever care about? After saying that, I hung up the phone immediately and blocked the number too. John asked curiously, "Hey, what happened?" I shook my head. Nothing. Just someone who doesn't matter. An insignificant person. Inside the room, Jiang Wanqing was staring daggers at Su Yichen. Through the chaos just now, he had already pieced together the whole story. He never imagined that the person he loved so deeply would actually push him into someone else's arms with his own hands. Cold sweat broke out on Su Yichen's forehead. Any explanation felt weak and pathetic. Jiang Wanqing might be naive, but he isn't stupid. Physical touch doesn't lie. He had never felt pain like this before. Biting his lip to hold back tears, he snarled, "Su Yichen, you animal!" Su Yichen scrambled to his knees, grabbing his legs. "Wanqing, I was wrong. I was so wrong." Jiang Wanqing had truly woken up. He kicked him square in the chest and roared, "You jerk! I loved you so much, and this is how you treat me?" Su Yichen sobbed and begged for mercy. "Wanqing, I just had a moment of weakness. Please, just forgive me this one time." But Jiang Wanqing was no longer the person he used to be. He raised his hand and slapped Su Yichen across the face and spat out, "Get out! Get the hell out!" Seeing that begging was useless, Su Yichen simply dropped the act. Su Yichen decided he was done pretending. He stood up with a cold, mocking sneer. With a twisted look on his face, he spat out, "Don't play dumb with me! Bai Jingchen treats you so well. Yet here you are, sleeping with me behind his back. I used to think you were actually something special. Turns out, you're just relying on Bai Jingchen for everything. What kind of talent do you even have, Jiang Wanqing? Without him, you're nothing but a pathetic loser. Get it? The company has no orders coming in. If you tried to sell yourself at a bar, nobody would even want you. They'd think you were trash. So now you're blaming me? Didn't you used to call me hubby every other breath?" Su Yichen's words cut into Jiang Wanqing's heart like a knife. She was too weak to even fight back. Truth be told, she'd been regretting everything lately. He could have helped the company thrive, with orders pouring in, and he pampered her with the utmost care. Luxury gifts were a constant, whereas Su Yichen, apart from that hollow title of being her first love, had absolutely nothing to offer. He only knew how to blow her money, and he was completely useless when it came to business. She had truly believed that Su Yichen contacting the Max Group was his big break. Little did she know, it was all just a massive scam. Only now did she realize just how stupid she had been. In a moment of pure desperation, Jiang Wanqing grabbed her phone and dialed 110. Su Yichen panicked. He lunged, trying to snatch the phone away, but Jiang Wanqing dodged him. "What the hell are you doing?" He knew full well that his actions were criminal. If the police got involved, the consequences would be catastrophic. "Wanqing, don't do anything reckless." Jiang Wanqing didn't even spare him a glance. She spoke into the phone. "I want to report a crime." The police arrived and hauled Su Yichen away. As he was dragged past me, I could clearly see the utter ruin and despair on his face. And just like that, the farce came to an end. My goal has already been achieved. I glanced toward the room, then turned around to leave. A weak voice called out to stop me. Startled, I turned back, only to see Jiang Wanqing, fully dressed, her face deathly pale, hair a total mess. Leaning against the door frame with one hand, I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall, mocking her with a, "Yo!" CEO Jiang finally crawled out, "Huh? Have a good time?" Jiang Wanqing's face was tragic, and she asked slowly, "It was you, wasn't it?" I shrugged, admitting it plainly, "Yeah, it was me." "Someone has to show the public what you're really like, CEO Jiang." Jiang Wanqing gave a bitter laugh. "Yeah, I guess. After everything I did to you, you have every right to get back at me." She was silent for a moment, then suddenly looked up. "Bai Jingchun, do you still love me?" I almost laughed out loud. I said with a mocking tone. Love you? I love you to death. Jiang Wanqing, I really wonder how your brain even works. What is there to love? The fact that you cheated on me? Or the fact that you're hopelessly stupid? I waved my hand dismissively and turned to walk away. What an absolute moron. Jiang Wanqing screamed at my back, then collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Bai Jingchun, I regret it. I really, truly regret it. I stopped in my tracks, and without looking back, I said, You don't regret anything. You just realized you're hopelessly stupid, and that your company is finished. No, that's not it. I didn't want to drag this out any longer, so I just kept walking. You really don't matter anymore, do you? The important thing is, I think you are. I walked a few steps away. Then I turned back and said, Oh, right. Your mom just called to say that your dad passed away. She couldn't get through to your phone, so I answered it for you. Jiang Wanqing felt like she'd been struck by lightning. She knew I wouldn't joke about something like this. She rushed back into the room to grab her phone and dialed her mother's number. But no one picked up. She called 7 or 8 times in a row. It was just a busy signal. Jiang Wanqing couldn't worry about anything else now. She hurried to the garage and drove straight to the Jiang family estate. When she arrived at the villa, the courtyard was draped in white silk. Clearly, the funeral was already underway. Jiang Wanqing's legs went weak as she stepped out of the car. She nearly collapsed. She struggled to walk toward the entrance and scanned her face to get in. Inside, friends and family of the Jiangs were all dressed in black, standing there with solemn expressions. In the center of the courtyard, there was her father's funeral portrait. A middle-aged man saw her. He immediately stepped forward and snapped at her. Get out of here. This man was Jiang Wanqing's second uncle, Jiang Zhen. With a trembling voice, Jiang Wanqing said, Uncle, I'm not leaving, Jiang Zhen sneered. With an icy glare, he said, You're not leaving? Your father is gone. Your mother called you? She wanted you to see him off for the last time, but you actually blocked her number. Where were you then? And now you decide to show up? You heartless brat! Tears streamed down Jiang Wanqing's face. She hung her head and kept shaking it. Uncle, please. I didn't know. I really didn't know. Jiang Zhen, overcome with rage, pointed at her and started shouting. You have no idea. Your father was critically ill. You have no idea how many times your mother called you. You didn't pick up a single time. You didn't come to visit even once. You just kept hanging out with that jerk. Well, are you happy now? Go on, go find him then. No one is going to bother you two ever again. The Jiang family members standing around started chiming in, criticizing her. Honestly, look at this girl, Jiang Wanqing. She seemed so well behaved when she was a kid. How did she turn into such a disgrace as an adult? Someone else added, You said it. You can know a person's face, but you can't know their heart. Wait, correcting tone to match flow, someone else added. Exactly. You never know what's really going on inside someone's head. She threw away her own father, just for some pretty boy. Another person chimed in. Young Master Bai treated her so well back then. He was rich and handsome too. She had such a perfect life right in front of her, but she just threw it away. She really had to go and ruin everything. Jiang Wanqing's face burned bright red. She dropped to her knees again, crying, I'm not leaving, I'm not leaving, I'm not leaving. Uncle, please, don't kick me out. Just then, her mother walked over. She looked at Jiang Chen and said, Second brother, let me talk to her. Jiang Wanqing looked up and saw her mother's eyes, swollen from crying. Her heart shattered. Her mother's face was completely expressionless. She said in a dull, flat tone, Your father's condition was actually getting better. The doctor said he couldn't afford to get angry. But the news about investors pulling out of the Jiang Corporation in such huge numbers still managed to reach his ears. He just couldn't take the blow. And just like that, he's gone. She stared down at Jiang Wanqing. Her eyes were icy cold as she said, Go pay your respects and kowtow to your father. And then, get out of the Jiang family for good. Jiang Wanqing snapped her head up. Mom! What do you mean, leave the Jiang family? I'm your daughter, Mother Jiang barked back. As of yesterday, you aren't anymore. The bond between mother and daughter was severed long ago. In the end, Jiang Wanqing was cast out of the Jiang household by everyone there. As she was driven away, not a single soul stood up for her. She collapsed onto the ground in front of the Jiang estate gates, her expression completely numb. This place used to be her home, but now it had become a place she could never return to. She didn't blame anyone else. She only blamed herself for being so foolish. She threw away a love that was real just to chase after a hollow obsession. Her home was gone, the company was on the brink of collapse, and she had absolutely nothing left. 6 months later, Chen Ming, the secretary at the Reese Group, walked in with some files, reporting to CEO Bai with a smile. The Max Group is extremely satisfied with the first round of our partnership, and they plan to send someone over next week to discuss the second round. I flipped through the documents, nodded, and asked, for the second round, how much are they planning to invest? The initial budget is $1.5 billion, so the funding will be more than enough. I replied, good, I've got it. Regarding the meeting with the Max Group, I'll handle it myself on Monday. Chen Ming nodded, but he didn't leave right away. He looked hesitant. Understood, CEO Bai. I looked up and asked, what is it? Something on your mind? Chen Ming lowered his voice and said, CEO Bai, Chen Shuyun is dead. I was stunned for a moment, before I realized that was Jiang Wanqing's mother. In half a year, I had almost forgotten that name entirely. My expression remained indifferent, and I asked casually, how did she die? Chen Ming explained, word is that after Su Yichen was released for medical treatment, he went to the Jiang estate, intending to kill Jiang Wanqing, and when he couldn't find her, he took it out on Chen Shuyun instead. The scene was a total disaster. After it happened, Su Yichen was arrested right on the spot. It's likely he'll get the death penalty, or at the very least, life in prison. I let out a soft laugh. So, in other words, Jiang Wanqing finally managed to get both her parents killed. I guess you could say that, Mr. Bai, and you wouldn't be wrong. I teased. Ever since he cheated and betrayed me, splitting up with him has been a blessing in disguise. Come to think of it, anyone who gets close to Jiang Wanqing never seems to end up well. Outside the window, the rain was pouring down, like a torn sky crashing onto the asphalt, making a deafening roar. Jiang Wanqing was running barefoot in the middle of the road, the freezing rain soaking through her white nightgown. The fabric clung to her skin, outlining her thin frame. Her long hair plastered wetly against her cheeks and neck. She looked nothing like the CEO everyone used to know, running wildly while screaming at the top of her lungs. Losing both parents in just half a year, the massive blow had pushed her to the brink of collapse, to the point where she could barely remember who she was. Not far away, the high beams of a truck pierced through the rain. With visibility so low from the storm, the driver never even saw the figure in the middle of the road. Jiang Wanqing turned around slowly in the blinding glare of the lights, and in that moment she didn't feel any fear at all, but rather a sense of relief. The next second, she closed her eyes and stopped breathing forever. At the Qingbei University orientation, I looked at the hot cheerleaders on stage and yelled, "Looking good, ladies! Check out those legs!" My fiancé's best friend was sitting right next to me, and when she saw me, she asked in surprise, "Aren't you worried that Yu Huan will find out and come after you?" I was busy winking at a long-legged senior, so I just scoffed. "She's already married to my brother. Who are you to tell me what to do?" The woman thought she had misheard me. She was completely stunned. I curled my lips into a smirk and shouted right into his ear, saying, "Zhou Yu Huan is my sister-in-law now." The moment I screamed those words out, the hall fell into an eerie, dead silence. Everyone was staring at something behind me. With my classmates frantically trying to signal me, I finally, slowly realized, under the strange, flickering lights, Zhou Yu Huan was standing at the entrance of the hall, veins popping on her forehead, her eyes bloodshot with rage. The woman had gone totally berserk, but I felt nothing but surprise. In my past life, we had been engaged since we were kids, yet she was always cold and distant toward me. It wasn't until the night I failed my college entrance exam that she, for the first time ever, took the initiative to get married early. I actually thought she had finally fallen for me. Even after we were married, I never gave up on studying for the exam, but every time I stayed up late to read, Zhou Yu Huan would suddenly show up and drag me into the bedroom without a word. She had 7 children with me, one after another, and every single time, I'd barely finished my wife's confinement before she was pregnant again. But when the last child was born, I died on a construction site, just trying to earn enough for formula. After I died, my soul floated in the air, and I watched Zhou Yu Huan standing in front of my gravestone, saying, "Xinhuai, the marriage and the kids you wanted, I gave them all to you, just to pay you back for that university acceptance letter." That was when I realized the one Zhou Yu Huan had always loved was my younger brother, Gu Yanchuan. She was the one who swapped my acceptance letter, making Gu Yanchuan a university professor basking in all the glory, while I was reduced to a desperate, back-breaking laborer, even losing my life in the process. Having lived a second life, I will never walk down that path again. I'm going to take back the acceptance letter that belongs to me, and finally achieve the dream I never got to finish in my last life. As for Zhou Yuhuan, I'm done. I don't want any of this anymore. Clutched in my hand was my pocket money, saved up over 6 months, along with a fake acceptance letter. I headed straight for the town post office. "Excuse me, in a week's time," I said. "If anyone comes looking for my acceptance letter, please hand them this fake one instead." 10 yuan wasn't a small amount back in 1983. The clerk hesitated for a moment, but then they took the envelope. A week later, I finally got my acceptance letter for the school I'd changed my application to. I didn't leave right away. Instead, I hid in the shade of a tree across from the post office to wait. Sure enough, not even half an hour later, that familiar military green Jeep pulled up right in front of the post office. The door opened, and Zhou Yuhuan stepped out in her crisp military uniform, followed by my own brother, Gu Yanxuan. In my past life, I went to my grave never knowing that on the very day my acceptance letter was swapped, Zhou Yuhuan had brought Gu Yanxuan there herself. Gu Yanxuan took that fake acceptance letter, his eyes sparkling like stars. "Sister-in-law, are you really giving me Big Brother's acceptance letter? Won't that be unfair to him? He wanted to go to college so badly, studying until the middle of the night every single day." Zhou Yuhuan reached out and brushed her hand over Gu Yanxuan's shoulder, her eyes full of a tenderness that stung compared to college. "Your brother cares more about being with me. As compensation later, I'll just marry him a bit earlier, that's all." Gu Yanxuan hung his head. "Sister-in-law, why are you so good to me?" Zhou Yuhuan looked at Gu Yanxuan, her eyes filled with words left unsaid. Standing under the tree, I answered for him in my heart. "Because, of course, she loves you." I wiped away the tears I hadn't realized were falling, and turned to walk away. I went home and started packing my things, and right in the middle of it, my parents pushed the door open and walked in. My father snatched the high school math textbook right out of my hands. "What's the point of reading all these books? Studying until 3 or 4 in the morning every single day, and you still failed the exam." My mother shot a look of pure disgust at me, then turned to Yanxuan. "He barely even studied for an hour and passed with flying colors. Honestly, you're just pathetic." She turned away, her face softening into a smile for Gu Yanxuan. "Yanxuan, dear, you actually got into college. Mom's going to throw a huge banquet for you right here in the neighborhood. I want everyone to know about your success." My father chimed in with a grin. "That's right. We're going to celebrate properly." By that evening, a tent had been set up in the courtyard. The neighbors were all gathered around the tables, chatting away excitedly. Every single conversation revolved around Gu Yanxuan. Just then, the courtyard gate swung open. Zhou Yuhuan walked in. He was carrying a beautifully wrapped gift box. He walked straight up to Gu Yanxuan and said, "Congratulations." Gu Yanxuan's ears turned slightly red, and he took the gift, beaming with surprise. "Thank you, brother-in-law." Zhou Yuhuan gave a faint, indifferent nod. Then he walked over and sat down right next to me. "Don't take failing the exam too hard." His voice was completely flat. It sounded like a chore he had to get over with. "Since that's how it is, let's just get married early. The wedding will be in 1 month." In my past life, I would have been moved to tears hearing those words. But now, I just found the whole thing ironic. I didn't say a word. Zhou Yuhuan didn't seem to notice or care. It felt like he was just notifying me of a decision, not asking. Gu Yanxuan was over in the distance, waving for us to come take a picture. Just as the photographer was about to snap the shot, the overhead scaffolding suddenly buckled and broke. It came crashing down straight onto us. "Look out!" The crowd erupted into chaos. But everyone's first instinct was to dive toward Gu Yanxuan. They rushed over, throwing their hands up to protect him. The scaffolding slammed hard into my shoulder. A wave of sharp, blinding pain shot through my entire body. I stumbled and collapsed onto the ground. My father didn't even look at me. He just grabbed Gu Yanxuan and pulled him to safety. Zhou Yuhuan rushed after them, yelling to hurry to the hospital. They hurried away. Not a single one of them even looked back to see me still sitting on the ground. That was when the neighbors finally started scrambling. They moved the shelf off of me. Auntie Wang gasped, "Oh my God! Xinhuai, your shoulder is bleeding! Why didn't you call out to them? You're hurt so badly." I looked at the gruesome wound on my shoulder and gave a faint shake of my head. What would have been the point of saying anything? Not one of them would have cared anyway. So from this day forward, I won't be begging for their love ever again. The next morning, Zhou Yuhuan asked me to go see a movie with them. Inside the theater, I sat in the corner. All I could hear was Zhou Yuhuan whispering back and forth with Gu Yanxuan. I felt like a complete outsider, just taking up space. When the movie ended, the crowd surged toward the exit. Suddenly, an angry shout cut through the noise. "Stop, thief! Someone stole my wallet!" The crowd turned chaotic in an instant. In the shoving, I felt a violent push from behind. I curled up to protect my head, but then I heard Gu Yanxuan's voice ringing out above the chaos. It was clear as day. "The thief is right here. It's him." I snapped my head up, meeting Gu Yanxuan's smug, triumphant gaze. The next second, a massive, burly man charged over and grabbed me by the throat. I couldn't breathe, and my vision started to go dark. I struggled to get the words out. It wasn't me. You've got the wrong person." The man slapped me hard across the face, snarling, "Still trying to lie your way out of this?" My cheek burned with intense pain. In the dim light, the man kept a death grip on me, raining punches down on me like a storm. "Zhou Yuhuan." I cried out for help, out of pure instinct. But not far away, I saw Zhou Yuhuan hurrying over to stand by Gu Yanxuan's side. "Yanxuan, why are you running around? Didn't I tell you to just stay right by my side?" Gu Yanxuan limped his way over, his voice laced with helplessness. "Yuhuan, I think I sprained my ankle." Zhou Yuhuan didn't hesitate for a second, rushing to steady him. I watched helplessly. As their silhouettes faded into the crowd, it felt like my heart was being ripped wide open. The brute dragged me out of the movie theater and beat me black and blue all over again. It wasn't until he finally pulled back my messy, disheveled hair. "Oh, damn, it's not you." The guy panicked, realizing his mistake. I braced myself against the wall and struggled to stand, then limped my way toward the hospital. Inside the emergency room, Zhou Yuhuan was half kneeling on the floor, carefully applying an ice pack to Gu Yanxuan's ankle. After getting treated at the hospital, I headed home all by myself. For the days that followed, I locked myself away in my room, waiting quietly for school to start, until the day of Gu Yanxuan's birthday arrived. The house was buzzing with excitement from early in the morning. My parents were rushing around, busy preparing the banquet. The living room was piled high with gifts, every single one of them for Gu Yanxuan. Watching them so full of joy and celebration, a heavy weight settled deep in my chest. Today is my birthday too. Gu Yanxuan and I are twins, yet our fates couldn't be more different. Ever since we were little, my parents were convinced I'd stolen all the nutrients from my brother in the womb, which was why Gu Yanxuan was always so sickly. Since then, all their love has gone to him, and I've become nothing more than a ghost in this house. Dish after dish was brought to the table. All of them were Gu Yanxuan's favorites: seafood, mushrooms, and chives, everything I'm severely allergic to. Mother shot me a quick glance, impatiently snapping, "It's a big, happy day. Stop pulling such a miserable face. Just grab some food and eat." Only then did Zhou Yuhuan notice me. She casually tossed a piece of shrimp into my bowl. "Eat up." I stared at the shrimp in my bowl and suddenly let out a laugh. I slowly picked the shrimp out and said softly, "I'm allergic to seafood." I gestured toward the other dishes on the table. "And I'm allergic to all of these too." The room went dead silent. Mother's expression darkened. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" I didn't answer. Sooner? I've said it more than 100 times over the years, but not one person ever remembered. I set down my chopsticks and headed back to my room. The sound of laughter erupted behind me, as if I had never existed at all. In the middle of the night, Gu Yanxuan's wailing shattered the silence. "My watch is gone." I was jolted awake and saw everyone scrambling to help him find it. It was a birthday gift from Zhou Yuhuan to Gu Yanxuan, and word had it that it was worth a fortune. "You don't think?" Someone cast a suspicious glance toward my room. My parents burst in immediately, and without a word, started tearing the place apart. I stood off to the side, watching them violently rip off my blankets and shake out all my clothes. "Found it!" Mother pulled a shimmering watch from under my pillow. Her face went livid, and she swung a heavy slap across my face. Mother screamed, "You actually stole your brother's watch? How could I have given birth to someone like you?" Gu Yanxuan said with red-rimmed eyes. "Big brother, if you liked this watch, you could have just asked me. Why would you steal it?" My voice trembled. "I didn't steal it." The neighbors pointed and whispered, "The proof is right there." Still trying to lie? Stealing at such a young age. He needs to be taught a lesson. Father's face was grim. "Send him to the reformatory. Now." I grabbed Zhou Yuhuan's wrist with all my might, Zhou Yuhuan. I really didn't steal it. Just trust me this once. He pried my fingers apart, one by one. It wasn't forceful at all. Yet, it felt like he was crushing my last shred of hope. The witnesses and the evidence are all right there. How do you expect me to believe you? Especially when you're supposed to be my partner soon. You should be setting an example for others. Partner, how ironic is that? He won't even give me the most basic trust, yet he still uses that role to hold me down. I stopped struggling. I just let my parents and the neighbors drag me off to the reform camp. Those 3 days inside were absolute hell. I had to do 12 hours of grueling labor every single day. And all I got to eat was some rancid, spoiled cornmeal bread. At night, I curled up on the damp concrete floor. The pain from my injuries kept me from sleeping. On the morning of the 4th day, the iron gate finally creaked open. I dragged my heavy, exhausted feet toward the exit. Every step felt like walking on the sharp edge of a knife. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out. I looked up and saw. My high school teacher, Mr. Chang, was staring at me in shock. Gu Qingwai, what on earth are you doing here? I tried to open my mouth, but no sound came out. Mr. Chang glanced at the gate of the labor camp. Then he looked back at my deathly pale face. It seemed like he finally understood. School registration starts very soon. Have you bought your train ticket yet? School. I felt completely dazed for a moment. These 3 days of living in total darkness nearly made me forget that I even had a university to attend. I shook my head. I happen to have an extra ticket right here. Mr. Chang pulled an envelope out of his bag. I'll have it sent to your house when the time comes. My eyes welled up with tears. I bowed deeply and said, "Thank you, teacher." When I finally dragged my battered body back home, Zhou Yuhuan was in the middle of signing for something. As soon as she saw me walking over, Zhou Yuhuan held up that train ticket and looked at me. "Why are you buying a ticket?" I snatched the ticket out of his hand, my fingers trembling slightly. "It's not for me," I stammered. "A friend is going on a trip, and they're just keeping it with me for now." Zhou Yuhuan's expression turned cold, but he didn't press further. He was just too confident. So confident that it never even crossed his mind that I might actually leave. The moment I pushed open the door to my room, my blood ran cold. The place looked like a hurricane had ripped through it. Drawers were pulled all the way out, clothes were scattered everywhere, and even the mattress had been flipped over. But the thing that terrified me the most was that the little blue cloth bag, hidden inside the lining of my pillow, was gone. Grandma had secretly pressed that into my hands just before she passed, and it held her entire life savings, $327.60. Gu Yanchuan was already leaning against the doorframe, tossing that familiar blue bag up and down in his hand. "Looking for this, big brother?" I lunged at him to grab it. "Give it back." But Gu Yanchuan dodged aside with ease. A mocking smirk plastered on his face. "What are you planning to do with this money? That's none of your business." Gu Yanchuan narrowed his eyes. "You aren't actually thinking about going back to school, are you?" My face went pale. "What do you want?" Gu Yanchuan flashed a completely harmless, innocent smile. "It's simple. Kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times, and I'll give the money back." My fingernails dug deep into my palms. The first kowtow hit the floor, my forehead thumping against the wood. The second one, my tears hitting the floorboards. The third one, I was shaking uncontrollably. "Can you give it back now?" Gu Yanchuan gave a soft chuckle, and then, to my absolute horror, he turned and walked toward the fireplace, throwing the bag and all the money inside straight into the flames, and threw them both into the raging inferno. "No!" I lunged toward Gu Yanchuan, desperate to snatch back that wallet before the flames swallowed it whole. But just as my fingertips were about to touch the wallet, Gu Yanchuan let out a blood-curdling scream. He tumbled backward. His arm accidentally struck the edge of the fireplace. Gu Yanchuan's agonizing shriek nearly pierced my eardrums. "What's going on?" Zhou Yuhuan and my parents rushed in at the sound. The moment they saw Gu Yanchuan collapsed on the floor, groaning in agony, with his arm badly burned, their faces turned deathly pale in an instant. My father roared, "What did you do to your brother?" My mother screamed as she threw herself toward Gu Yanchuan, her voice trembling with heartbreak and fury. Before I could even begin to explain, my father struck me across the face with a brutal slap. "You ungrateful wretch! If anything happens to Yanchuan, I will never forgive you." At the hospital, the doctor looked grim. "The patient has 3rd-degree burns on his hand. He needs a skin graft immediately." Without a second thought, my father pointed at me and said, "Use his. He's his older brother. He's the perfect match." 2 nurses pinned me down. As the anesthesia needle pierced my arm, I heard Zhou Yuhuan's icy voice. You still want to go back and study for your exams? Didn't I tell you? We're getting married early. Isn't this what you've always dreamed of? I slowly looked up, staring at the woman I once obsessed over. Not anymore. Never again. In the end, they harvested a massive patch of skin from my thigh. Yet, I didn't even get the most basic antibiotics. My parents had given specific orders. Don't give him any antibiotics or painkillers. Let him learn his lesson the hard way. On the day of discharge, I followed quietly behind them, watching my parents, and Zhou Yuhuan carefully shielding Gu Yanchuan in the center, until a soldier walked up and handed Zhou Yuhuan an invitation, telling him about a social dance being held that night. The dance was hosted in the grand hall, blazing with lights, and packed with a boisterous crowd. I sat in the corner, watching Gu Yanchuan weave through the crowd, with Zhou Yuhuan sticking to his side like a shadow. A young girl reached out her hand to Gu Yanchuan. Could I have this dance? Zhou Yuhuan stepped in front with a cold expression. He doesn't like to dance. As the night went on, Gu Yanchuan was surrounded by people, but Zhou Yuhuan turned them all away with one excuse after another. Gu Yanchuan suddenly laughed, tilting his head to look at Zhou Yuhuan. How are you supposed to help me pick anyone if you're this picky? At this rate, I might as well just marry you. Zhou Yuhuan's pupils constricted sharply. His lips moved, but no words came out. Just then, a tall, slender woman walked over. Are you seeing anyone? See if I'm a match for you. Zhou Yuhuan suddenly yanked Gu Yanchuan behind him. Sorry, he's already engaged. The woman's face changed. He has a fiancé and he's still at a mixer? How shameless. A few people rushed over to pull them apart, but Zhou Yuhuan seemed like he'd lost his mind. I watched the scene in shock. Zhou Yuhuan had always been calm and restrained. Even on the battlefield, he could keep his cool. But now, just because someone said one thing about Gu Yanchuan, he had spiraled completely out of control. I suddenly felt like it was all so ridiculous. After being together day and night for all these years, I hadn't realized that he loved Gu Yanchuan, that he loved him so deeply. Zhou Yuhuan's anger still hadn't cooled down in the car. He slammed his foot on the gas. The car was picking up speed, going faster and faster. Suddenly, the brakes failed. The car skidded violently. It smashed hard into the guardrail on the side of the road. Bang! The massive impact left me seeing black, with the wail of ambulance sirens. The three of us were rushed to the hospital. The door to the emergency room suddenly swung open. A doctor rushed out and said, "The patient has a ruptured kidney. He needs an urgent transplant." Father grabbed me, insisting he use his own. "He's the older brother," he said. "It's the right thing to do." The nurse checked, then shook her head. "The blood types don't match. He can't be a donor." "I'll do it," Zhou Yuhuan said. He staggered out from another room, face pale as a sheet. The bandages on his forehead were already soaked through with blood. I watched as he was wheeled into the operating room. I suddenly started to laugh. He really does love him so much. Enough to risk his own life for him. I stood up, stumbling on my feet, and turned to walk away. In the days that followed, while they were all occupied at the hospital, and nobody was paying attention to me, I spent my days washing dishes at a restaurant, and my nights doing odd jobs at a textile mill. The harsh dish soap turned my hands white and pruny. They started to fester, but I didn't care. People in the neighborhood were all whispering about how successful Gu Yanchuan's surgery was, and what a heroic sacrifice Zhou Yuhuan had made. I turned a deaf ear to it all. I just quietly kept counting the money I had saved up. Finally, it was enough to cover my university tuition and living expenses. On the day Gu Yanchuan was discharged from the hospital, the house was decorated. On the day Gu Yanchuan returned, the house was decked out in celebration, as if they were welcoming a VIP. Half an hour later, Gu Yanchuan stumbled through the front door. His collar was torn to shreds. Zhou Yuhuan jumped to his feet. He rushed over in 2 or 3 strides and grabbed him. "What on earth happened?" Gu Yanchuan's eyes were bloodshot, and with a trembling finger pointed at me, he claimed that my eldest brother had sent people to hurt him. He said that group of people wanted me dead, and if I hadn't run fast enough, I really wouldn't have made it back alive. Hearing this, Father slammed his hand on the table, sending the teacup crashing to the floor. Mother lunged forward in a flash, and without hesitation, she slapped me hard across the face. "You animal! How could I have a son like you?" My face was knocked to the side from the blow, and a trickle of blood seeped from the corner of my mouth. I slowly turned my head back, my gaze sweeping calmly over everyone present. Father's face was twisted in uncontrollable rage. Mother wore a look of complete hysteria. There was a cold, icy fury in Zhou Yuhuan's eyes. And Gu Yanchuan, hiding behind Zhou Yuhuan, flashed a smug, triumphant smile at me. I didn't say a word. My voice was very soft, yet it rang out with chilling clarity. Zhou Yuhuan's eyes turned completely icy. Guards! Take him away and punish him according to military law. Zhou Yuhuan's freezing cold voice exploded in my ears, cutting through the air like a razor-sharp blade, severing the very last glimmer of hope I had left. The sun beat down like fire on the training ground, and I was tied to the torture rack, my bare back exposed to the scorching heat for the punishment. At Zhou Yuhuan's command, the whip whistled through the air toward me. With the first lash, I bit my lip until it bled. By the fifth lash, my fingernails were digging deep into my palms. Fresh blood dripped from between my fingers. By the 10th lash, my vision began to go black, and a buzzing sound filled my ears. At the 15th lash, I could clearly hear the sickening crunch of one of my bones snapping. When the 20th lash came down, I couldn't even feel the pain anymore. The scorching sun beat down, and when the 20th lash came down, I couldn't feel a thing. As the sun baked my wounds, my consciousness began to drift away, and Zhou Yuhuan's cold, heartless eyes were the only thing I could see. The smug, self-satisfied grin on Gu Yanchuan's face. The look of utter disgust from my parents. Just before the darkness completely swallowed my consciousness, I collapsed heavily to the ground. When I woke up again, I was lying in my familiar bed. My back was stinging with a fiery, burning pain. I struggled to push myself up and noticed a stack of cash and a letter sitting on the nightstand. My fingers trembled as I tore open the envelope, and Zhou Yuhuan's familiar handwriting came into view. Today is the day to register for Yanchuan's university. Uncle Gu and I are going to drop him off at school. You just stay home and recover, and we'll get married as soon as I get back. I stared at those few short lines and suddenly started laughing until the tears streamed down my face. How ridiculous is that? He beat me half to death, yet he still expects me to obediently wait for him to come back so I can marry him. I picked up a pen and wrote, "Forget it," firmly on the back of the letter. I am not marrying you. Zhou Yuhuan, we are never meeting again. I slapped the letter down on the nightstand, struggled to get up, and pulled out the suitcase I had already packed from under the bed. Inside was the money I had been secretly saving and that real university acceptance letter. Outside the window, the morning sun was just beginning to rise. I took one last look at the home I had lived in for 20 years and headed toward the train station without ever looking back, while the car carrying Zhou Yuhuan and the others was driving toward Gu Yanchuan's university. The train I was riding on was also slowly pulling toward my new beginning. The train slowly pulled away from the platform, and the scenery outside began to drift backward. I leaned into the corner of the hard-seat carriage, the wounds on my back throbbing with a dull pain, but I gritted my teeth and didn't make a single sound. I held my luggage bag tight in my arms, which contained my acceptance letter and every penny of my savings. This is the starting point of my new life. I really didn't want the noise of the carriage to overwhelm me. That fresh air, it was the only hope I had for this new life. But the carriage was filled with clamor, and the air was thick with the smells of all sorts of food. I kept my head low, trying my best to stay invisible. Yet, my pale face and the healing scars on my arms still drew the attention of those around me. A middle-aged woman sitting across from me asked with genuine concern, "Hey kid, are you all right?" She immediately held out a warm steamed bun. "You don't look so good. Here, have a bite." I was taken aback for a second and looked up at her. Her eyes were warm and sincere, without a hint of malice. I hesitated for a moment, but took the bun anyway and whispered a thank you. The woman continued, "So, where are you headed?" I replied quietly, "Off to university." "Oh my, a college student! That's truly amazing." The woman reached over to pat my shoulder with a smile, but noticed me wince slightly in pain and quickly pulled back. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I touch a wound?" I shook my head, managing a forced smile. "It's nothing." Just then, a young woman sitting diagonally across from us looked up, her gaze landing on me. She had delicate features and an elegant air about her. She set down her book and asked softly, "Do you need some help? You don't seem to be feeling very well." I instinctively clutched my luggage bag tighter, glancing at her with suspicion. She seemed to notice my guard go up and gave a gentle smile. "My name is Su Wanning. I'm a teacher at Jinan University. If you need any help, feel free to let me know. I just heard you're off to college, so I was thinking, if one of my students ran into some trouble on the road, I'd hope someone else would reach out and help them." When I heard the words Jinan University, my eyes lit up just a little. That's the school I'm headed to. I hesitated for a moment, then lowered my voice and said, "Thank you, teacher. I'm fine." Suwon nodded, not asking any more questions. "Thank you, teacher. I'm okay." Suwon nodded, not pushing for more. She just reached into her bag, pulled out a tube of ointment, and handed it to me. "This is an anti-inflammatory cream. It'll help with the healing. I noticed some blood seeping through your clothes, and figured you might be hurt. If you don't mind, you could give it a try." I stared at that tube of ointment, a complicated mix of emotions welling up inside me. I never would have imagined that in a train car full of strangers, someone would actually reach out to help me. I took the ointment and said softly, "Thank you, Teacher Sue." After a moment of hesitation, I spoke up quietly. "I'm actually a student at Jinan University." A flash of surprise crossed Suwon's eyes, but then she gave me a gentle smile and said, "Then there's even less need to stand on ceremony with me." The train rumbled on. Sunlight streamed through the window into the car, casting its glow across my face. For the first time, I felt a glimmer of warmth, not from my own family, but from a total stranger. Once night fell, the lights in the carriage dimmed. Exhaustion made me drift towards sleep, but I didn't dare let my guard down, terrified that someone might steal my luggage while I was out. Yet, eventually, the drowsiness overpowered my willpower. My head slowly began to droop, and in my daze, I felt someone gently draped a coat over me. My instincts kicked in, and I jerked awake, only to find it was Sue Wanning sitting right there. She was just in the middle of placing the coat on my shoulders. Seeing me wake up, she said apologetically, "Sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. It gets cold in the carriage at night. Just didn't want you to catch a cold." I stared at her in a daze. My eyes suddenly started to sting. I quickly lowered my head and whispered, "Thank you." Sue Wanning gave me a faint smile. Then she went back to her seat and returned to her book. Early the next morning, the train finally reached our destination. I packed up my luggage, getting ready to head off. Just before we parted ways, that middle-aged woman tucked a bag of food into my hands. As the moment of departure arrived, the train finally pulled into the station. I gathered my belongings and prepared to get off. Before I left, that middle-aged lady pushed a bag of dry rations into my hand. "Young man, be careful on your way. Take good care of yourself." I nodded, feeling truly touched. "Thank you, ma'am. Think nothing of it. You're a college student, aren't you? You're going to go far in life." After saying goodbye to her, I was just about to leave when I saw Sue Wanning stand up too. "Want to head over together? We're both headed to Jinan University. My friend can give you a lift along the way." I hesitated for a moment, but looking into that woman's gentle eyes, I found myself nodding as if under a spell. "That would be a huge help, Professor." I walked out of the station and took a deep breath. The sunlight hit my face, chasing away all the dust and fatigue from the long journey. I looked up at the silhouette of the city in the distance. A surge of strength I'd never felt before welled up in my heart. I whispered to myself, "This time, I'm going to live for me." Then, I took my first step toward a brand new life. With Sue Wanning leading the way, we made it to Jinan University without a hitch. The campus was full of lush, shaded trees, and students were bustling back and forth, all full of youthful energy. I stood right at the school gate, gazing up at the shimmering gold lettering of Jinan University, and I could feel my eyes starting to mist over. A senior student walked up and asked warmly, "Hey there, are you a freshman?" I nodded. "Yeah, that's right. I'm here to register." The senior smiled and grabbed my luggage, saying, "Let me help you get checked in. Sue Wanning is a teacher here after all, so she had her own things to take care of," and seeing that I was in good hands, she pulled a small note from her pocket and handed it to me. The note had her contact info written on it, and she said, "If you run into any trouble, you can always come find me." I took the note, tucked it away carefully, and said, "Thank you, Teacher Sue." Seeing that I'd taken it to heart, she finally felt at ease and turned to head off. With the senior's help, I finished my enrollment pretty quickly and picked up my dorm key. My room was on the second floor, and it was clean and tidy. The sunlight streamed through the window, hitting the bed. Feeling so warm and bright, I sat on the edge of the bed, gently smoothing out the brand new bedding, my heart overflowing with hope. For the first time, I truly felt that life could be this beautiful. By the time evening rolled around, and I had everything neatly packed away, there was a soft knock at the dorm door. I opened it to find Sue Wanning standing there, carrying a bag in her hand, and she smiled. "I heard you were all settled in, so I thought I'd come check on you. Here are some daily essentials. They might be of some use to you. I took the bag from her and found it filled with a towel, a toothbrush, a notebook, and other everyday things. A wave of warmth washed over me. Miss Sue, you really shouldn't have gone to all this trouble. Suwon shook her head, saying it was just a small favor. If you ever need anything else, feel free to come to me. I nodded, and for the first time since my rebirth, I offered a truly genuine smile. Night deepened. I stood by the dorm window, gazing at the starry sky. I knew that from this day forward, my life would change forever. All that pain and betrayal from the past would soon be history. I could finally live for myself and go chase my own light. Zhou Yuhuan realized he had forgotten something and came back to get it. Passing by my room, he instinctively pushed the door open, but the room was completely silent. On the desk lay the letter he had carelessly tossed aside, now with a new, messy, yet determined line of text on the back. Don't bother, I won't be marrying you. Zhou Yuhuan, let's never see each other again. He stared at those words, his brows furrowing slightly, before he let out a cold laugh, crumbling the letter into a ball and tossing it into the trash. Throwing a tantrum, huh? You'll crawl back on your own in a few days. In his eyes, I had always been submissive, someone who just clung to him. He turned to go downstairs, just as he bumped into my parents storming through the door. Where is that good-for-nothing? My father's face was livid, asking, where is that good-for-nothing? My father's face was deathly pale. Someone said they saw him leave with a small suitcase. Did he steal from the house and run away? My mother shrieked. That ungrateful wretch! We raised him for all these years, and he actually dares to sneak off. Why doesn't he just drop dead out there? Zhou Yuhuan listened to their increasingly vile insults and curses. A tiny, almost imperceptible frown creased his brow. Gu Yanchuan came running down from upstairs, his eyes rimmed with red. Mom, Dad, please don't be angry. Maybe Big Brother just acted on impulse. His mother pulled Gu Yanchuan into a tight hug, her voice full of heartache. Oh, Yanchuan, you're just too kind-hearted. A heartless, ungrateful wretch like him doesn't even deserve to be your brother. Zhou Yuhuan stood off to the side, his gaze sweeping over his parents' twisted, angry faces, then shifting to Gu Yanchuan's teary-eyed expression. Not one of them even bothered to ask, how is Gu Qinghuai's injury? The thought flickered through his mind, and even he was taken aback by it. But he quickly suppressed that strange feeling, saying coldly, don't worry about him. He'll come back sooner or later. His father huffed. If he comes back, I'll break his legs. His mother chimed in, exactly. We'll make him kneel and apologize. Gu Qinghuai couldn't possibly have really left. He loved himself so much. How could he bear to? Listening to the endless stream of curses in his ears, that was what he told himself. Yet, an inexplicable irritation nagged at him, refusing to fade. After Zhou Yuhuan checked over all the belongings, making sure nothing had been left behind this time, he personally drove him to school. His parents followed along, beaming with pride. Yanchuan, dear, make sure to take good care of yourself at university, and just let us know if you need anything. His mother held Gu Yanchuan's hand, chattering on and on. His father patted Zhou Yuhuan on the shoulder. Yuhuan, I'm counting on you to look after Yanchuan. Zhou Yuhuan nodded, though his mind seemed a bit elsewhere. He had just sent people to comb through the station records, only to find that but there was absolutely no sign of my whereabouts. It was as if I had completely vanished into thin air. Gu Yanchuan gave his sleeve a gentle tug. Sister-in-law? What's on your mind? He snapped back to reality, and replied indifferently, nothing. Gu Yanchuan blinked, then suddenly lowered his voice. Are you thinking about my big brother? Zhou Yuhuan didn't say a word. Why would I think about him? Gu Yanchuan frowned. Looking aggrieved, I was just worried that you'd be sad. After all, he loves you so much. Zhou Yuhuan remained silent, simply reaching out to pat his head, though the movement felt a bit stiffer than usual. After getting Gu Yanchuan settled, Zhou Yuhuan rented 2 apartments nearby, one for his parents and one for himself. His mother was beaming. Yuhuan, you're just so thoughtful. It's such a blessing for Yanchuan to have a sister-in-law like you. Zhou Yuhuan managed a faint smile, but didn't respond. That night, he stood alone on the balcony, and for some reason, that pair of indifferent eyes drifted into his thoughts. Is he really not coming back? The thought stung his heart, but he ruthlessly crushed it immediately. He's just an irrelevant person after all. Besides, he loved me more than his own life. How could he ever bear to leave me? He turned and went back inside, but once in bed, he found himself unusually restless and couldn't sleep. The next morning, Gu Yanchuan came running over, all excited. Sister-in-law, there's a welcome party at our school today. Could you please come with me? Zhou Yuhuan wanted to refuse, but looking into those expectant eyes, he finally nodded. At the party, Gu Yanchuan wove through the crowd, drawing the attention of countless girls. Zhou Yuhuan stood in the corner, his gaze cold and sharp as he scanned anyone who tried to get too close. Getting closer to him, my heart inexplicably drifts back to the past. I, too, used to look at him with such anticipation, asking if he could go on a journey with me to some far-off place. I, too, used to look at him with such anticipation, asking if he could accompany me to the market just once. But he would always say no. Oh well, maybe next time, if I ask him again, he might just begrudgingly agree to go with me. The early morning sun streamed in through the library windows. I sat by the window, focused on flipping through the pages of my book. My pen raced across the notebook, leaving behind lines of neat, tidy notes. "You're here so early, Gu." A gentle voice drifted from beside me. I looked up and saw Su Wanning standing by the table with a smile, holding a cup of steaming soy milk in her hand. "Miss Su," I started to stand up, but she gently pressed me back into my chair. "Don't be so formal, I brought this for you." Su Wanning pushed the soy milk toward me. "I've noticed you're always the first one in the library lately. Make sure you get enough rest." I took the cup, feeling the warmth seep into my fingertips. I took a sip. It was the perfect amount of sweetness, exactly the taste I like. "Thank you, miss." Su Wanning sat down across from me, opening her lesson plan. "If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me anytime." Scenes like this played out almost every single day. Ever since I started school, Su Wanning would always appear just at the right moment while I was studying. Sometimes she'd bring a warm drink, other times she'd just sit there quietly keeping me company while I read. At first I was a bit reserved, but gradually I started to get used to this warmth. "Gu Qinghuai." A man's voice shattered the library's quiet, as a boy came rushing over in a whirlwind. He threw an arm around my shoulder. "I knew I'd find you here. Come on, let's get to the lab. Professor Wang is looking for you." This is my roommate. She's got such a bright, sunny personality. Ever since the first day of school, she's treated me like her best friend. I was a bit surprised. "Professor Wang wants to see me?" My roommate held her head high, acting all proud. "Yeah, my best friend." I was a bit surprised. "Professor Wang wants to see me?" My roommate held her head high and insisted. "Yeah, that's right. Your last lab report was used as the model example. The professor says he wants to make you a teaching assistant." My eyes lit up. It was the first time I'd ever felt the joy of being truly recognized. Su Wanning stood up with a smile. "Go on now, don't keep the professor waiting." Walking along the tree-lined campus path, my roommate kept on chattering away. "Did you know? Everyone in the department is calling you a genius. We all started at the same time, but you can already understand those super complex research papers." Listening to my friend's praise beside me, a warmth welled up inside me, a feeling I had never experienced before. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Zhou Yuhuan still had no idea about my situation. A strange, uneasy feeling suddenly gripped his heart. "Sister-in-law!" Gu Yanchuan's voice broke his train of thought. He burst into the office, full of energy. He threw an arm around his shoulder. "I've got my eye on a new watch. Is it the latest model? It's been so popular lately. Come with me to go get it." Zhou Yuhuan looked at Gu Yanchuan's fresh, youthful face, trying to recapture that old feeling of doting affection, but found his heart was unusually calm. "I have some things I need to take care of." He tried to brush him off. Gu Yanchuan frowned. Her eyes grew slightly red. "Don't, please. You haven't spent any time with me in so long. Are you still thinking about my big brother?" Zhou Yuhuan's expression turned cold in an instant. "Don't talk nonsense. Why on earth would I be thinking about him?" A flash of gloom crossed Gu Yanchuan's eyes, but he quickly put his sunny smile back on. "We agreed you'd go shopping with me this weekend. Is there anything about school you're not used to yet? How about I head over to your school tomorrow to check on you?" Zhou Yuhuan didn't respond. Almost instinctively, she pulled her arm away from his grasp. She changed the subject. "No." When she met Zhou Yuhuan's puzzled gaze, Gu Yanchuan's eyes flickered for a brief second. "I need to focus on preparing for my exams." She changed the subject. "No." When she met Zhou Yuhuan's puzzled gaze, Gu Yanchuan's eyes flickered for a brief second. "Because I need to focus on preparing for my exams? If you show up, I'll just get distracted." Zhou Yuhuan didn't think too much of it. She just nodded. Yet her thoughts couldn't help but drift far away. That person, who still hasn't been found. Where in the world could he be right now? Meanwhile, inside the auditorium at Jinan University, thunderous applause erupted. The piece titled Breaking the Cocoon by student Gu Qinghai, with its sincere emotion and unique perspective, completely won over all the judges. This work will be recommended for publication in the Youth Literature Journal. I stood up on the awards podium. Under the spotlight, I looked so dazzling. Su Wanning was sitting in the front row, watching with such focused eyes. The corners of her mouth lifted involuntarily as she looked at the person on stage. That young man from 3 months ago, all bruised and battered, with that guarded look in his eyes, had now transformed into someone so confident and composed. I gave a slight bow. Thank you all for this recognition. This story is about a boy finding a new lease on life, and it's my way of saying thank you to everyone who helped me along the way. I scanned the crowd and locked eyes with Su Wanning. In that moment, we both knew, reading the words we left unsaid. A week later, the latest issue of Youth Literature hit the stands. My story, Breaking Free, was featured right on the front page. The papers sold out the moment they were released. The editorial office was flooded with fan mail, all asking to get in touch with this new writer. Gu, you are absolutely incredible. My roommate was spinning around the dorm, waving the newspaper. Even my parents called to ask me, checking if you were really my roommate. Professor Su says he wants to take you out to dinner tonight to celebrate. The state-run hotel has been packed lately, but he made sure to reserve a private room just for us. You ask why my ears suddenly turned bright red? My roommate leaned in with a cheeky grin, saying, "We can all tell." Well, I'm glad it's obvious. Whatever happens with Professor Su, it has to wait until after I graduate. After all, there are plenty of old-fashioned types who just love to gossip. Meanwhile, over at the city center mall, Zhou Yuhuan followed behind Gu Yanchuan with a blank expression. His hands were weighed down by bags full of shopping. Sister-in-law, do you think this new leather jacket looks good on me? Gu Yanchuan spun around in front of the mirror, completely oblivious to Zhou Yuhuan's lack of interest. Zhou Yuhuan gave a distracted, perfunctory reply, his gaze suddenly caught by a newspaper in a nearby kiosk. The title, Breaking Free, was printed in huge, bold characters on the front page. The author's name listed was Gu Qinghai. Almost under a spell, he walked over and bought the paper. Sister-in-law, why are you buying a newspaper? Gu Yanchuan leaned over, annoyed, but his face paled the second he saw that name. Why bother reading? Such boring stuff? Let's just head to the next shop. But Zhou Yuhuan didn't budge. He stared at the text on the page, reading through the entire article word by word. The image of the man in the story, rising from the ashes, overlapped perfectly with that stubborn look in my eyes he remembered so well. This article is written beautifully. Zhou Yuhuan's red lips parted slightly. What about before? Gu Yanchuan's nails dug deep into his palms. He suddenly clutched his stomach and doubled over. It hurts so much. My throat, my stomach, it really hurts. Zhou Yuhuan finally snapped back to reality. He quickly supported him, asking, "What's wrong?" Gu Yanchuan leaned weakly against his shoulder. Maybe I ate something bad. Could you take me to the clinic, please? At the clinic, the doctor's exam showed everything was normal. But Gu Yanchuan insisted on staying for observation for a while. Zhou Yuhuan sat by the hospital bed, still clutching that newspaper in his hand. Gu Yanchuan pulled on his hand. Sister-in-law, will you stay with me, please? I feel so unwell. Zhou Yuhuan nodded. But he couldn't help it. He couldn't help but take one more glance at the newspaper. Stop looking at that. Gu Yanchuan suddenly snatched the newspaper away and tore it to shreds. Choking back sobs, he said, I don't want to see that name. Back then, he almost cost me my life. Have you forgotten? Besides, he never even had the chance to go to school. How could he possibly write anything? This definitely isn't him. The scraps of paper drifted down, scattering across the floor. Zhou Yuhuan stared at the paper fragments. An unexplainable sense of irritation welled up in his heart. A sample copy sent by the editorial department of the Youth Literature Journal lay quietly on my desk. The cover featured a preview of my column. The classroom was already completely empty. The glow of the setting sun streamed through the window, casting a warm, golden outline around me. Still working on your draft? Su Wanning's voice drifted in from the doorway. She walked in carrying a stack of documents, her eyes filled with concern. I looked up, a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. Teacher Su. Look, my column is starting next week. Su Wanning set down the documents and took the sample magazine, flipping through it carefully. Sunlight caught on his eyelashes, casting a soft shadow across his eyelids. He closed the magazine and said gently, "It's very well written, but it's time to rest now. Let me walk you back to your dorm." We walked side by side along the shaded campus path, flickering with dappled light. Suddenly, Su Wanning stopped and said, "Oh, that's right. There's a youth writers forum in the city next month, and I'd like to recommend you." A greeting from Gu Qinghai cut his words short. I froze, then slowly turned around. Zhou Yuhuan was standing about 5 meters away, her face looking terrifyingly dark. Her gaze was locked firmly on the hand Su Wanning had placed on my shoulder, her eyes burning with overwhelming rage. "So it really is you," Zhou Yuhuan said, striding toward us. Her military boots thudded heavily against the ground. "I've been searching for you for 3 months. If it hadn't been for... I've been searching for you for 3 months. If I hadn't seen the name of your school in the publication, just how much longer were you planning to hide from me?" I took a deep breath and instinctively leaned a little closer to Su Wanning. This small movement only made Zhou Yuhuan's eyes look even more vicious. I spoke calmly. "Is there something you need, Colonel Zhou?" That title made Zhou Yuhuan's brow twitch. In the past, I had always affectionately called her Yuhuan, but now I was using such cold, formal language. She reached out to grab my wrist. "Come back with me. Haven't you had enough of this? You didn't even pass the university entrance exam? So what are you doing messing around here? Have you no shame?" Su Wanning moved calmly to block me behind him. "Comrade, please watch your manners." Only then did Zhou Yuhuan truly look at this refined and elegant woman. His voice was as cold as ice. "Who are you?" Su Wanning, an associate professor in the literature department at Jinan University. "And also, Qinghuai's teacher." Zhou Yuhuan let out a cold, mocking laugh. "Qinghuai is smiling so warmly. What kind of teacher are you supposed to be? Qinghuai never even got into university. That acceptance letter. You must have tricked him. You're the one who lured him here." Then he turned his attention toward me. His tone suddenly softened. "Qinghuai, stop acting out. I know you're still angry. Come home with me. Let's talk this through properly." Looked at the woman who once haunted my every dream and felt absolutely nothing inside. I even found the whole thing a bit ridiculous. After everything that's happened, how can she still put on this act of being so deep and devoted? I just looked straight into Zhou Yuhuan's eyes. "Commander Zhou, I think we've already made things perfectly clear between us. I'm not going back, and I'm definitely not marrying you. Besides, I think you've got the wrong idea. I got into Jinan University on my own merits. After all, we both know exactly who was actually capable of passing, don't we?" Zhou Yuhuan's expression froze. She couldn't believe I would use that kind of tone with her. Zhou Yuhuan's expression froze. She couldn't believe it. That I would speak to her with a voice so cold. It was bordering on cruel. And she couldn't believe the way I was looking at her, like I was looking at a complete stranger. "Are you in love with someone else?" She pointed a shaking finger at Su Wanning. "Is it because of her? You're really going to spout lies like that now? You know damn well you didn't pass that exam." I shook my head. "It's not because of anyone. I never needed to rely on anyone else to survive. I have my own dreams. A future I'm determined to pursue. Who exactly is lying to themselves? Don't you know deep down? Do you really need me to dig up my school records and shove them in your face to believe me?" Zhou Yuhuan's chest heaved violently, yet he stubbornly refused to accept the truth. He grabbed my shoulders and snapped, "You're lying. You clearly love me so much. Just come back with me. I already told you I'm willing to marry you. If you keep acting like this, aren't you afraid of losing everything?" I gently shook his hands off. "That was in the past. I don't love you anymore." The words struck like a sharp blade, piercing straight through Zhou Yuhuan's heart. He stumbled back a step. His face turned deathly pale. That's impossible. You couldn't possibly stop loving me." Su Wanning stepped forward at just the right moment. "Comrade Zhou, please respect Qinghuai's decision." Zhou Yuhuan's gaze turned vicious in an instant. "Who the hell are you? Do you really think you have the right to interfere in our business?" Seeing this, I raised my voice. "That's enough. Teacher Su is my benefactor. Show some respect. If there's nothing else. We're leaving." I took the initiative and grabbed Su Wanning's arm. I turned around, ready to walk away. Zhou Yuhuan roared from behind, "Gu Qinghuai, you're going to regret this." I didn't look back. My back remained straight. My steps were firm and steady. "Qinghuai, it's bad." My roommate rushed into the library in a panic. A few people just showed up at the school gate. Two of them are claiming to be your parents. They're going around telling everyone you ran off and that you're unfilial. They're saying that you didn't even... There are two people there claiming to be your parents. They are spreading rumors that you ran away and are being unfilial. They're telling everyone you never actually got into college, and even snuck into the school, demanding that the school investigate you thoroughly. The pen in my hand clattered onto the desk. My expression darkened instantly. When I rushed to the school gate, my parents were there, waving banners and shouting at the top of their lungs. A crowd had already gathered to watch, filled with curious students and teachers. My mother screamed until her voice was hoarse. My son ran off with some wild woman. After we raised him for all these years, after loving him so much, he actually did something so shameless. And the school is actually shielding a teacher like that. Where is the justice in this world? My father was pointing his finger right in the school leader's face, cursing. If you don't hand over my son today, I'm going to the police station to report you all. Let me tell you something. We have Commander Joe backing us up. I stood at the edge of the crowd, feeling a chill run through my entire body. I saw Gu Yanchuan hiding behind my parents, a smug, triumphant smile on his face. I'm right here. Could you please move aside? My clear voice cut through the noise. The crowd parted, creating a path for me. I stood tall and walked out. My mother lunged at me, trying to slap my face. You ungrateful brat. You still have the nerve to show your face? I caught her wrist firmly. Mom, this isn't home. Hitting someone is against the law. My mother was stunned. She had never seen her son act so firm and unyielding before. Teachers, students. I turned toward the crowd, my voice ringing out clearly. These two are indeed my parents. But I did not elope, and I haven't done anything immoral either. I simply worked hard, got accepted into this university, and started a new life. My academic records and everything else are completely in order, kept here at the school. As of right now, I've got my own acceptance letter right here with me, along with my ID. Back then, they kept swearing they loved me, all while plotting to steal my acceptance letter, just so they could let my precious little brother take my spot at university. It was only because I changed my preferences at the last minute, switching to Jinan University, that I managed to dodge a bullet. I pulled the letter and my ID out of my bag, and said, here is my proof. As for that loose woman they keep ranting about, that is my teacher, Professor Su Wanning. The entire faculty and student body can vouch for us. We have always maintained a strictly professional student-teacher relationship. My father flew into a rage, shouting, don't talk nonsense. You clearly just ran off with someone. I let out a cold laugh. Is that so? Then tell me, why exactly would I run? Was it because you tried to have Gu Yanchuan steal my enrollment spot to get into university? Or was it because you lied and called me a thief, hoping to ship me off to a labor camp? The crowd erupted in an uproar. Seeing things go south, Gu Yanchuan immediately faked a fainting spell and dropped to the ground. My heart. It hurts so much. My mother rushed over to him instantly, with genuine concern in her eyes. Yanchuan. Yanchuan. What's wrong, baby? It's all your fault, you jinx. The scene descended into total chaos, and the school officials made the quick call to report it to the police. The officers arrived in no time and dragged my parents away to investigate the disturbance. Gu Yanchuan kept clutching his chest, acting like he was in agony, so he had to be sent to a nearby clinic. Before he left, he shot me one last vicious glare. Only after the crowd had dispersed did I realize that my hands had been shaking the whole time. Then, a pair of warm, fair hands rested gently on my shoulders. A hand gently wrapped around mine. It was Su Wanning, standing right there by my side. It's okay now. You did so well. I looked up at her, and suddenly, my eyes grew hot with unshed tears. That's right. I'm no longer that Gu Qingwan, the one everyone could just push around. Now, I have friends. I have teachers. And I have a future all my own. Meanwhile, under the shade of a tree not far away, Zhou Yuhuan stood there, silently watching the whole scene. The military cap in his hand was crushed out of shape. He had fully expected that once I left him, my life would be utterly miserable, but he never imagined I'd be living so brightly. And what he found even harder to accept was the way I was looking at that woman. It was the kind of gentleness that used to belong only to him. The fluorescent lights at the police station were harsh and blinding. My parents sat on the bench, their faces livid. An officer slid an investigation report across the desk toward them. The officer spoke up. Gu Yanchuan's university acceptance letter was forged. The university named on the letter had realized something was off back when he supposedly enrolled, and had already kicked Gu Yanchuan out. All this time he'd just been attending some so-called school, one you could just pay your way into. Mother shot up from her seat, her fingernails practically digging into the officer's face. That's absolute nonsense. My son clearly got into university. It must have been that wretched thing, Gu Qingwan, pulling some kind of stunt. The officer frowned and took a step back. I don't deal in guesswork. I have hard evidence. If you don't believe me, you can see it for yourselves. Father looked as if he'd been struck by lightning. He collapsed back onto the chair. No, that's impossible. We had everything set up perfectly. How could this happen? Besides, Yanchuan is so talented. At the same time, the news spread like wildfire, reaching every corner of the city. The neighbors who used to envy Gu Yanchuan for getting into college were all clicking their tongues in mockery. The students and faculty at Jinan University were absolutely outraged. It turned out that those people who caused such a scene at the school gate had the nerve to treat one of our top students that way. Inside the military district office, Zhou Yuhuan stared intently at the investigation report on her desk. Her fingers tapped the desk subconsciously. This document clearly recorded all the evidence of Gu Yanchuan faking his academic credentials. Even after he was exposed, he still acted as if nothing had happened, continuing to attend classes at that other so-called school. The political commissar sighed. Colonel Zhou, this situation has really blown up. After all, he is your fiancé's younger brother. It doesn't look very good for you. Zhou Yuhuan stood up abruptly. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. In the hospital room, Gu Yanchuan was leaning against the headboard. As soon as he saw Zhou Yuhuan walk in, he immediately put on a pitiful, sorrowful expression. Sister-in-law. Zhou Yuhuan cut straight to the point, her voice cold as ice. Why didn't you tell anyone you were kicked out of school? Gu Yanchuan's fingers tightened sharply against the bed sheets. Tears welled up instantly. It was my older brother who framed me. I have no idea how he used that fake acceptance letter to trick me, and then he secretly changed his own application to get into Jinan University instead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I was just so terrified of my brother. Ever since he burned my arm that time, I haven't been able to stop having nightmares. Later, he even tried to hire someone to. I was just so scared. I was afraid that if I exposed the truth, he would take revenge on me. So I didn't dare to say anything. I was worried that if I said too much, it would make my brother look bad. And you would think I was just trying to stir up trouble. You've been so cold to me lately, and I'm really scared. Sister-in-law, please believe me. I'm really so afraid. Seeing him like this, the doubts in Zhou Yuhuan's heart were slowly replaced by her familiar feelings of pity. Yanchuan is so kind and innocent. How could he possibly be lying on purpose? There must be some kind of misunderstanding. He gently patted Gu Yanchuan's back and said, Stop crying. I'll take care of it. Where he couldn't see, Gu Yanchuan flashed a look of triumph, but his arms held on even tighter. Sister-in-law, you're the best to me. Zhou Yuhuan walked out of the clinic and stood in front of the newsstand, seeing it once again. The newspaper featuring my article. He stared at the paper, lost in thought, looking at the photo of me, looking so confident. The caption next to the photo read, Gu Qinghuai, outstanding student at Jinan University, School of Literature, and featured columnist for the Youth Literature Gazette. He suddenly remembered, from a long time ago, the boy who always followed behind him, cautiously asking, Sister Yuhuan, is my essay any good? How did he answer back then? It's all right, I guess. How did he answer back then? It's all right, I guess. He hadn't even looked up and said, Stop wasting your time on this useless stuff and learn a thing or two from your brother. Zhou Yuhuan clenched his fists tightly, crumpling the newspaper into a ball in his hand. For the first time, he realized maybe he had never truly understood me at all. That boy he thought only cared about tagging along after him actually had such a brilliant light of his own, and this light was now being cherished by another woman. Rain lashed against the windows of the military office. Zhou Yuhuan stared at the mountain of files on his desk, feeling drained. Ever since the scandal about Gu Yanchuan faking his academic credentials broke, his superiors had already pulled him in for 3 separate talks. Every word was a subtle hint that his personal life was affecting his performance in the military. She rubbed her temples and got up to head toward the filing cabinet. As she pulled the drawer open, a blue diary accidentally slipped out, hitting the floor with a loud thud. Zhou Yuhuan frowned as she picked it up. Gu Yanchuan must have left it behind when he was at the office last time. She intended to just put it back, but then she caught a glimpse of her own name inside. Her fingers started flipping through the diary before she could stop them. Another success. Mom and Dad think it's the oldest brother's fault again. All I have to do is fake a cough, and they'll start screaming at him for not closing the window properly. I knew it. They never doubt a single word I say. Finally, I successfully changed my college application. I knew if I just acted a little pathetic, Yuhuan would help me out. Still, I honestly don't think she's good enough for me. Once I get out there and reach bigger and better things, I'm sure I'll meet plenty of amazing girls. With my charm, I'm bound to make it big. The watch Yuhuan gave me is so trendy. I left it under the oldest brother's pillow on purpose. Seeing him get slapped across the face for it, I almost burst out laughing. I can't stand that high and mighty attitude of his. It's absolutely sickening. I burned myself on purpose, just to see if I could. I was hoping to take the skin from his face to treat my own, but in the end, it didn't work out like I planned. It actually didn't work. I get the feeling Yuhuan still cares about him a little bit, but if I tell her he hired someone to kill me, there's no way she'll keep caring about a guy like that. Anything I don't want, he doesn't get to have either. The diary shook violently in Zhou Yuhuan's hands. She slammed it shut. Her chest was heaving with every breath. All those details she had been forcing herself to ignore. Suddenly, everything became clear. The way Gu Yanchuan's eyes would shift whenever I was being framed. The faint, fleeting smirk on his lips after every single conflict. The car sped through the rainy night, splashing water everywhere. Inside the Gu family living room, Gu Yanchuan was checking himself out in the mirror, trying on a new pair of leather shoes. Seeing Zhou Yuhuan burst in, drenched from head to toe, he rushed over with a look of pleasant surprise. "Sister-in-law, what happened to you?" Zhou Yuhuan threw the diary down onto the coffee table. "What the hell is going on here?" Gu Yanchuan's face turned ghostly pale in an instant. He dropped to his knees with a thud. "Sister-in-law! Please, you have to listen to me. I have no idea what these are. It must have been my brother. He wrote these to frame me." Zhou Yuhuan let out a cold, sharp laugh. "You think Gu Qinghuai could just swipe your private diary and write all this stuff in it just to plant it at my place to set you up? Yanchuan, do I look like an idiot to you?" Suddenly, Gu Yanchuan lunged for the fruit knife on the coffee table and pressed it against his own wrist. "Why won't you believe me? If you don't trust me, then I'll just die right here in front of you. Is that what you want?" The blade dug into his skin, leaving a jagged red mark. Zhou Yuhuan reacted instinctively, snatching the knife away. "Are you out of your mind?" Gu Yanchuan used the momentum to lunge forward and wrap his arms around him. "I am out of my mind. It's all because I love you way too much. Ever since we were kids, you've only ever had eyes for my brother. You were even going to marry him. This is the only way I can get a hug from the person I care about most. What a pathetic, miserable way to love." Zhou Yuhuan felt a shiver run down his spine. He stiffened and shoved him away. "We both need some space to cool off." The next morning, sunlight streamed through the window. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. "We both need some space to cool off." The next morning, the front page of the Youth Literature Gazette published my piece of investigative journalism, A Stolen Life. The article meticulously exposed the entire scheme of how my college acceptance letter was swapped. It caused a massive nationwide sensation. Back then, lying on the cold concrete floor of the labor camp, I finally realized one thing. Some people are born to live in the sunlight, while others have to tear through the darkness with their own hands, just to catch a glimpse of the light. Su Wanning placed a cup of hot milk on my desk. An investigation team has already been set up. I looked out the window. Sunlight filters through the sycamore leaves, casting dappled shadows across my face. I don't care if they get punished or not. Writing this down is just to tell everyone who's been bullied that we can fight back. The morning at Jinan University should have been filled with the sound of students reading, but at the break of dawn that day, it was cast under an eerie shadow. When the first group of early students stepped through the gate, they were stopped in their tracks by the posters plastered all over the exterior of the main building. They stared, stunned. On sheets of egg-yellow rice paper were filled with unbearable words written in blood-red ink. The headline, Gu Qinghuai of Jinan University, seducing multiple female teachers with his looks, was especially jarring. The attached photo was a stolen shot from somewhere, showing a silhouette of me and Su Wanning talking in the library. The grainy black and white photo had been cropped to look intentionally scandalous. A girl covered her mouth and gasped, "What on earth is this?" Gu Qinghuai, isn't that the senior who won the literature award? A classmate immediately shot back, That's total nonsense. I've taken classes with him, and he and Professor Sue have always been strictly professional. The news spread across campus like wildfire. As soon as I walked into the dormitory building, my roommate dragged me into our room. He was so angry, his face was flushed red, clutching half a scrap of a poster he'd ripped down from the announcement board. He dragged me inside. My roommate, face flushed with fury, clutched half a piece of paper, ripped right off the notice board. Look at this, Gu Qinghua. It had to be Gu Yanchuan. Just yesterday, I saw him skulking around the school, acting all suspicious. The vile words on the paper stabbed into my eyes like needles. My fingertips turned ice cold. Yet, I forced myself to stay calm and not panic. Those who hold themselves in low regard invite the same from others. That may be easy to say, but my heart was still aching uncontrollably. I thought that if I ran away from that house, I could escape all that malice. I never imagined Gu Yanchuan's revenge would be this vicious. My roommate was furious. What do you mean, those who hold themselves in low regard? This is clearly just a smear campaign against you. I'm heading to the broadcast room right now to set the record straight. I grabbed his arm. Wait, don't rush into this. At a time like this, the more worked up we get, the easier it is to fall into their trap. We need evidence, and we need a strategy. Just then, a soft knock came at the dorm door. Sue Wanning was standing outside. Her expression was a bit more serious than usual. In her hands, she held a stack of posters that had been torn down from all over the place. I've already had campus security seal off the scene, and we're tracking down who printed these. She looked at me. There wasn't a hint of suspicion in her eyes, only steady reassurance. How are you holding up? I shook my head. I'm fine. Teacher Sue, I just didn't expect him to take it this far. The more they try, the more we have to keep our cool. Sue Wanning placed the posters on the table. I've already contacted the school administration and the local press, and we will issue a statement to clear your name as soon as possible. Don't you worry. The school won't let any student suffer from malicious slander. Her tone was firm and decisive. It felt like a solid barrier, shielding me from the storm outside. My roommate nodded vigorously beside me. Exactly. We all believe in your innocence. Just yesterday afternoon, you were at the library researching with me. How could you have had any time to be involved with anyone? Those gossips are just plain jealous. You were in the library with me yesterday looking up materials. When would you have had the time to be doing anything inappropriate? Those gossips? They're just plain jealous. The chatter around campus started to split into two camps. Some were swayed by the trash written on those posters, and they started looking at me with these weird, judgmental eyes. But there were far more classmates and teachers who actually knew who I was. Like the guy who's always buried in books at the library, or the writer who stands on the podium and speaks with such confidence, or the good student who's always there to help others out. I don't think Gu Qinghua is that kind of person, a girl said loudly in the cafeteria. When I was struggling to finish my article last time, he stayed up all night just to help me pinpoint my mistakes. I learned so much from him. The photo on that poster, it was taken right then. I was literally standing right there too. But they maliciously cropped it to only show the two of them. Miss Sue was just standing nearby, guiding us through it. It was just a normal student-teacher interaction. Exactly. I've even seen him bring medicine to Miss Sue before. She had a bad cold, that's all. How could anyone call that an inappropriate relationship? A bunch of us have brought cold medicine for teachers before. That overwhelming wave of support came crashing in, slowly drowning out all that malicious speculation. My roommate walked with me across campus, proactively explaining things to anyone we knew. She even brought out my class schedule from the past few months, along with the times I went to the publishing house, and showed it to everyone. Every single time slot was clearly marked with my study and work hours. There wasn't a single gap for this so-called seducing a teacher. Miss Sue Wanning was even more direct. In her public lecture, right in front of the entire department, she pulled out the original poster and started tearing apart the logical fallacies in it one by one. As Gu Qinghua's teacher, I can say with full responsibility that every single interaction we've had has been strictly academic and within the bounds of a normal teacher-student relationship. These smears aren't just an attack on Gu Qinghua, they are an insult to the entire teaching profession. Her voice echoed through the loudspeaker. The announcement blared through the classroom speakers, every single word hitting like a hammer. The school had reported the whole mess to the police, and we were all hoping they'd finally track down whoever was pulling the strings. But things only got worse, and the harassment just kept escalating. My dorm lock was jammed shut with superglue, my textbooks were ripped to shreds, And some sicko even stuffed a dead rat into my locker. The most dangerous moment, though? I was walking back late one night, when two masked guys cornered me in an alley. "Hey, big shot," one sneered. "Someone paid us good money to teach you a lesson." The guy stepped closer with a twisted grin, and I could see the cold, deadly glint of a metal pipe in his hand. I scrambled backward, until my back hit the freezing cold brick wall. Just as that pipe was about to come down on me, a figure lunged out of nowhere, shouting, "Run!" Sue Wanning slammed her bag right into the attacker's face, grabbed my hand, and pulled me away before he could react. She's usually so composed and distant, but all that elegance was gone. Sue Wanning was gasping for air, her hands shaking as she checked me over. "Are you hurt? Tell me!" Under the moonlight, I saw her knuckles were scraped and bleeding, and I couldn't hold it back anymore. I just pulled her into a tight embrace. She held me back just as hard, whispering, "It's okay." "I'm fine," I said. My fists clenched so tight, my knuckles turned white. Then I muttered, "It had to be Gu Yanchuan. Nobody else in the world hates me this much." Sue Wanning didn't say a word. She just patted my back gently. "Don't be afraid. I'm here, and the school is behind you too. We won't let him get away with this." When my roommate heard what happened, she hugged me tight, furious. "That is absolutely insane! How could anyone be so cruel? Qinghua, don't you worry. From now on, I'm sticking to you like glue. Let's see who dares to try anything." For the next few days, she really did stay by my side every single second, waiting right outside the door, even when I went to the bathroom. As for Sue Wanning, she even requested to move into the school dorms. And every single night, she would patrol the routes I had to take home, do a quick check. Some are even patrolling the routes I take. A group of students have even taken it upon themselves to form a security detail. Whenever I head to the library or the newspaper office, there are always a few students who insist on walking with me. Gu Yanchuan's scheme has fallen through once again. When the police officers tracked down those two thugs based on the clues, they cracked in no time and gave up the mastermind. It was none other than Gu Yanchuan, desperate and running on the money Zhou Yuhuan gave him. When the news finally reached my ears, I stood by my dorm window, watching the students walking together downstairs, and my eyes welled up with tears. I used to think I was all alone, fighting against the whole world, but I never expected that in my darkest hour, so many people would stand firmly by my side. Gu Yanchuan huddled in the corner of his balcony, his fingers trembling as he held a cigarette. Faint footsteps echoed from downstairs, and every single step felt like it was trampling right on his heart. He knew the police had come to arrest him. His plot to hire people to hurt me a few days ago had been exposed. Once those two thugs were caught, they couldn't even handle a few rounds of questioning before spilling everything. They even pulled out the $10 in hush money he'd given them, right from the soles of their shoes. His mother rushed into the room in a panic, shoving a cloth bag into his hands. "Yanchuan, hurry up and pack! Your father pulled some strings. He says you should hide out at your uncle's place in the countryside until the heat dies down." Gu Yanchuan suddenly started to laugh. Hide where, those two idiots? Why couldn't they handle such a simple task? Even after all that, it didn't manage to ruin him. Why? Just why? I should have spent more money and found someone more capable. His father was pacing back and forth in the living room, peeking through the door crack every few seconds. Why hasn't Yuhuan shown up yet? If she were willing to say just one word, the police station would at least have to show some respect to the military. The police station would at least have to show some respect to the military. The mere mention of Zhou Yuhuan made the light in Gu Yanchuan's eyes instantly fade away, only to be replaced by a burning, venomous rage. He had gone to find her just yesterday, his eyes dulling, then igniting with that same hateful fire. He had gone to look for her just yesterday. He knelt on the cold, concrete floor of the military office, clutching at her pant leg, sobbing his heart out. He begged her, claiming I had pushed him into a corner with no way out, pleading with her to help him for the sake of their past. But that woman just stared at him coldly, as if he were a complete stranger. All she said in the end was, "You have to face the consequences of your own actions." Suddenly, Gu Yanchuan screamed in a hysterical frenzy. "He's not coming! That bastard is the only thing on his mind. I ruined Gu Qinghuai, so now he's going to ruin me." His mother, terrified, scrambled to cover his mouth. Keep your voice down. If you keep making a scene, we're truly finished." Footsteps outside were drawing closer, mingled with the sound of hushed, urgent voices. Gu Yanchuan shoved his mother aside, grabbed his bag, and bolted for the balcony. They lived on the second floor. Outside, the balcony was a small courtyard, cluttered with junk, and in the corner stood an old locust tree. Its branches reached just far enough to brush the edge of the balcony. His father cried out in shock, "What are you doing?" Gu Yanchuan's voice was choked with tears, but it was icy with resolve. "I can't let them take me. If I go in there, my life is over." He swung the bag onto his back, stepped onto the window ledge, and scrambled toward the tree. The rough bark of the old locust tree scraped his hands raw, and since he was wearing sandals, his toes got jammed in the crevices of the trunk. He winced in agony, but didn't dare stop. Downstairs, the police were already pounding on the front door. "Is Gu Yanchuan home? We're from the local station, here to execute a summons." His father scrambled to respond, flustered and frantic, purposely fumbling to slow down the process of opening the door. Gu Yanchuan seized the chance and scrambled up into the tree branches. He looked down, and the pitch-black ground made his head spin. He gritted his teeth, squeezed his eyes shut, and jumped. With a loud thud, he missed the pile of weeds he had aimed for, and instead landed right in that corner of the yard, inside a stagnant, abandoned rainwater pit. Splash! The water erupted high into the air. A foul, fishy stench of muck hit him instantly. Splash! The water erupted high into the air, and that revolting, rotten mud smell washed over him again. Gu Yanchuan thrashed around in the water, having already lost his shoes. A jagged piece of glass at the bottom sliced his ankle open, but the water rushing into his mouth kept him from even screaming. The pit wasn't deep, but the bottom was slick with slimy moss and rotting leaves. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. Frigid water poured down his throat, and his vision started to black out from the choking. Yanchuan's mother leaned out from the balcony, spotted her son struggling in the water, and screamed, "Help! Someone help!" Yanchuan fell into the pit. His father didn't even stop to put on his shoes before bolting out of the house, grabbing a bamboo pole from the corner of the wall and jabbing it into the water. "Grab it! Quick! Grab hold of it!" But Gu Yanchuan had no strength left. His hand waved weakly above the surface, then slipped beneath for good. By the time the local police arrived after hearing the commotion, the scene by the pit was pure chaos. Flashlight beams danced wildly across the water, illuminating the ghostly, pale faces of his parents. When they finally dragged Gu Yanchuan out, his entire body was waterlogged and pale, his lips blue and purple. He was already long gone. The boy who once dreamed of trampling his own older brother underfoot and tried to use women as a stepping stone to power had finally met his end in a filthy, stagnant pit in his own yard, ending his short, twisted life. Gu Yanchuan's death was like a massive boulder thrown into stagnant water, causing small, uneasy ripples throughout the town. At first, people felt pity, wondering why such a young kid would ever choose to throw his life away. Before long, the rumors started spreading. People were saying he fell in because he was on the run after committing a crime. The public discussion turned into hushed whispers, all of them carrying a tone of "he had it coming." Zhou Yuhuan was at the military base when he got the news. The communications officer handed him the note with great hesitation. He stayed silent for a long time after reading it. In the end, he just crumpled the note into a ball and tossed it into the trash can. The wind outside the window blew for a long time. In the end, he just crumpled the note into a ball and tossed it into the trash can. The sunlight outside was beautiful. It felt warm, shining on his military uniform. Yet, he felt a chill deep down in his bones. That boy who had followed him around since childhood, calling him sister-in-law. The boy who could manipulate his every emotion with just his tears and his smiles, was just gone. He didn't feel the sense of relief he had imagined. There was only a vast, empty void, as if something had been gouged out of his heart. My parents completely fell apart. To lose a child when you are old, and for it to happen in such a shameful way. It made it impossible for them to even hold their heads up in the courtyard. The neighbors would avoid them whenever they crossed paths. The same people who used to flock around Gu Yanchuan with flattery now looked at them with nothing but contempt. The couple sat at home, crying for days. Looking at Gu Yanchuan's empty room, they finally broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "It's all our fault. We're the ones who spoiled him rotten." Mother beat her own chest, gasping for air between sobs. If only we hadn't played favorites back then. If only we hadn't let him take Qinhuai's place. Father just stared blankly. What's the use of saying all this now? We failed Yanchuan, and we failed Qinhuai even more. After turning it over in their minds, it seemed I was the only hope they had left. Perhaps if they could earn my forgiveness, they might be able to feel a little bit better. That afternoon, my parents, their backs hunched with age, arrived at the gates of Jinan University. They were wearing old clothes, faded from countless washes, their faces etched with an exhaustion they couldn't hide. They looked so out of place among the vibrant, energetic students. When the security guard tried to block them, my mother almost dropped to her knees. "Sir, please, we're looking for Gu Qinghai. He's our son." They kept badgering the guard at the gate. Finally, the guard had no choice. He sent someone to pass the message on to me. My roommate heard this and huffed, fuming. "They still have the nerve to show their faces?" "Qinghai, don't pay them any mind." Su Wanning frowned too. "Do you want me to go deal with them?" I set my book down and fell silent for a long moment. I didn't answer my roommate. Su Wanning frowned again. "Do you want me to handle this?" I set my book down and paused for a moment. I shook my head. "I'll go see them. Some things, after all, need to be put to rest once and for all." Beneath the old locust tree by the school gate, when my parents saw me walking over, their eyes turned red in an instant. My mother rushed forward to grab my hand, but I sidestepped, avoiding her touch without a word. My mother's voice choked with emotion. "Qinghai, are you doing all right?" I looked at these two faces, so familiar, yet like strangers to me now. My heart was unexpectedly calm. There was no bitterness, not like I thought there would be. I remembered how, when I died in my past life, they didn't even shed a single tear. I remembered being framed for theft, and my father not hesitating for a second to send me off to a labor camp. I remembered when my shoulder was crushed by the scaffolding. My mother only had eyes for the tiny scrape on Gu Yanchuan's skin, whether I'm doing all right or not. "What does that have to do with you?" My father's lips trembled, but he couldn't manage to get a single complete sentence out. My father's lips kept trembling. They pulled a cloth bag from their pocket and shoved it in front of me. "Son, this is the money we've been saving up for you. You're going to need some living expenses for college, right? We truly know we were wrong. Can you ever forgive us?" The cloth bag was heavy. It felt like it was filled with coins and small change. I didn't reach for it. "No, thank you. I earn enough from my writing to cover my own expenses now. As for forgiveness, when you pushed me into the abyss back then, did you ever think this day would come?" My mother burst into tears. "We were wrong. Son, we really, truly know we were wrong. Please, I'm begging you, forgive us. Just think about the fact that we're your own flesh and blood parents." Flesh and blood parents. I repeated those 4 words back to them. A flicker of emotion finally stirred in my eyes. "In your hearts, when have you ever actually treated me like your own son? I will never forgive you. Some wounds can't just be erased by saying, 'I'm sorry.'" I didn't spare them another glance. I turned around and headed toward the school. I didn't have the slightest intention of looking back. Zhou Yuhuan had just finished his inspection rounds. He was just about to go take a break when old Wang from the guard room stopped him. "Commander Zhou, there are 2 folks outside looking for you. They claim to be your family, and they're making quite a scene." Zhou Yuhuan frowned. He didn't have any relatives like that. But when he pushed the door open, his heart sank. My parents were standing there, their backs hunched over. Their hair was a mess. Their faces wore a look of desperate defiance. My mother spoke first. "Zhou Yuhuan, you heartless wretch. We entrusted our son to you, and this is how you ruin him?" A few soldiers passing by stopped in their tracks. They started looking over, full of curiosity. Zhou Yuhuan's face turned livid. "What are you 2 doing? Get inside with me and talk." My father puffed out his chest and said, "Let's go inside and settle this right here. Let everyone hear the truth. Tell us, Commander, how did you pull that switcheroo? How did you take my eldest son's admission letter and give it to your younger son?" The soldiers standing near Wenyan were completely stunned. A wave of whispers broke out instantly. Zhou Yuhuan felt the blood rush straight to his head. He hissed, "What kind of nonsense are you babbling? Come with me now." He reached out to grab my father, but my father shook him off with a violent shove. My mother simply sat down on the ground, slapped her thighs, and started wailing, "Oh, heavens! What kind of sin did our Gu family commit? That daughter-in-law stole our eldest son's future for her own kid. Is there no justice left in this world?" Back when Qinghai got into university, this Zhou woman conspired with Yanchuan to hide his real acceptance letter and gave Qinghai a fake one instead. My father chimed in, shouting, "We were truly blinded by greed back then, helping Yanchuan lie to Qinghai. We know we were wrong now, but this Zhou woman was the mastermind to get Yanchuan into college. She destroyed Qinghai's whole future. Now Yanchuan is gone too, and we old folks can't go on living like this. We'll just die right here at your base gate today. We'll just die right here at your base gate today." As my mother said this, she actually started charging at the wall. but the soldiers nearby were quick and managed to hold her back. By now, the entire military compound was in an uproar. The political commissar and several leaders hurried over, and their expressions turned grim the moment they saw the scene. The commissar asked in a deep voice, "Zhou Yuhuan, what is the meaning of this?" Zhou Yuhuan stood there stiff as a board, his face turning shades of red and white, but he couldn't get a single word out. Every word my parents spoke was the truth, and each one hit him like a whip across the face. Seeing the leaders had arrived, my mother wailed even louder. She started sobbing even harder. Just because Zhou Yuhuan has a fancy title, does he think he can rule the world? If it weren't for him secretly swapping that acceptance letter back then, Qinghai would be a college student right now. She never would have suffered so much. We, as parents, let Qinghai down, and we've come here to confess our sins. My father started crying too, but the root of all this is Zhou Yuhuan. If he hadn't helped, none of this would have happened. Everyone's eyes were locked on him, piercing through Zhou Yuhuan like needles. He looked absolutely pathetic right now, barely able to hold his head up. They took them to the office, and in that office, my parents laid out everything about the letter-swapping scandal, holding nothing back, including how Zhou Yuhuan bribed the post office, how he handed the fake letter to Gu Yanchuan, and how he tricked me into getting married early. My father wiped away his tears and said, "We know we were wrong. We shouldn't have played favorites, and we shouldn't have helped Yanchuan lie to Qinghai. But Zhou Yuhuan was the mastermind. If he hadn't given the green light, this whole thing never would have gone through." Zhou Yuhuan stood to the side, listening as these painful, unbearable memories were stripped bare, wishing the ground would just swallow him whole. He always thought his scheme was airtight, but he never imagined it would end up being exposed by my own parents like this. The political commissar's face darkened with rage. He looked at Zhou Yuhuan and shook his head in total disappointment. "Yuhuan, oh Yuhuan, how could you do something like this? This isn't just a lapse in character. It's a total betrayal of principles." Zhou Yuhuan opened his mouth, but he had no idea what to say. Any apology or excuse felt so hollow and weak in the face of such undeniable facts. The commissar sighed. "Considering your past service, I'm letting you go this time, without detention. But there must be disciplinary action. You've shown a total disregard for military discipline. You abused your authority. The impact is absolutely disgraceful. I will be reporting this to the higher-ups. You are being given a formal demerit, and it will be announced as a reprimand to the entire military region." Zhou Yuhuan snapped his head up. A formal demerit? This meant that all his years of hard work and his future might be completely ruined. He wanted to argue his case, but he saw the stern look in the political commissar's eyes and swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Seeing that their goal had been met, his parents stopped their wailing and scene-making. They just hung their heads, looking completely wilted like frostbitten eggplants. The reason they caused such a scene was first to atone for their sins, and secondly, they wanted Zhou Yuhuan to pay a price. But once they actually heard the disciplinary decision, they felt a sudden sense of unease. His father stammered, "We'll be leaving then." The political commissar waved them off. He ordered the guard to escort them out. The office was left with only Zhou Yuhuan and the political commissar. The commissar patted him on the shoulder. "Make sure you behave yourself from now on. Reflect deeply on your actions. From here on out, live up to the uniform you wear, and live up to your own conscience." With a sharp snap, Zhou Yuhuan stood to attention. He gave the political commissar a crisp salute. "Yes, sir." Walking out of the office, the sunlight was blinding, yet Zhou Yuhuan felt a chill running through his entire body. He looked up at the sky over the military compound, and felt that bone-deep cold once more. He looked up at the sky over the military compound. The world that once felt so vast and open now felt like a giant prison cage. The record of the formal demerit came through very quickly. Along with the reprimand broadcast to the entire military region, Zhou Yuhuan's name had become a cautionary tale throughout the military district. Soldiers who once treated him with the utmost respect now took a detour just to avoid him, their eyes filled with nothing but disdain and contempt. His career was completely ruined. Forget about any promotion. It was a struggle just to hold on to the position he had, facing those strange, judgmental looks every single day. Felt even worse to Zhou Yuhuan, then charging into the heat of battle. Meanwhile, I was completely oblivious to all of it. I was busy cramming for my final exams. In the library, I was buried deep in my books, with the sunlight streaming through the window, bathing me in a golden glow. Su Wanning sat across from me, and as she watched me studying so intently, a faint smile touched her lips. Su Wanning, how are your preparations for finals coming along? I looked up, my eyes shining with confidence. Teacher Su, I've got this. My college life hadn't been dimmed by the shadows of the past. On the contrary, thanks to my own hard work and the support of those around me, it was only getting brighter. My articles were being published in papers one after another. My grades were consistently at the top of the class, and I had become a standout in the eyes of my teachers and peers. Little did I know, back in that distant military compound, the woman who once held my fate in her hands was paying a heavy price for everything she had done. As far as I was concerned, the past was the past. All that pain and betrayal had simply fueled my growth. My future was in my own hands, and it was full of infinite possibilities. And Zhou Yuhuan? He was nothing more than a passerby on my life's journey, someone I had long since left in the dust.